Hello guys and welcome back to the Raspberry podcast. Today I am joined by Simon Yo. Simon is a 15th Dan Ninjutsu black belt, so he is a straight up legit ninja. He's also a Roger Gracie Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, and he's dabbled in a couple of other martial arts as well. So he's been in the martial arts game for a very long time. I had a great chat with him today. We spoke about ninjutsu, the history, the philosophy behind that. He was around in the very early days of UK Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, so we spoke about that as well, kind of the big differences between something like ninjutsu and something like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and how he's merged them, how the ninjutsu community viewed him when he started doing that, and a lot of cool other stuff. He also seems to have hung around with a lot of really famous people, which even after talking to him, I'm not sure I still completely understand, but screw it makes some really good stories. But yeah, really enjoyed chatting to Simon. Very interesting guy. Some very cool stories. So I hope you guys enjoy listening to it. Check it out. Firstly, Simon, thank you very much for coming.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
So you sent me a little list with a couple of things that you've done, and the first thing on there was that you have no injuries.
Yeah, I think I've been very lucky. I think there's two things that contribute to that. I think the first one is that because of my sort of Oriental heritage, my father's I guess about 3/4 Chinese and my mother's English, so I've got a reasonable amount of sort of Oriental heritage there. I'm sort of naturally flexible, like all throughout my body. I'm a tiny bit of tightness in my hips, but that's about it. But the rest of me is pretty flexible, so that's helped me. But also, because I started Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu particularly quite late on in life, I think I started around 2000 or just before, I've had to think carefully about how I trained and stuff. And this is like, for me, an important thing, because I enjoy training, and what I hate, and it absolutely drives me insane, is not being able to train.
Yeah, I think that's a common thing for everyone. It's the worst thing.
I'm like a caged animal when I can't train. So I've been very careful of who I train with. So after purple belt, I kind of chose to go down the sort of private class route. So from purple belt onwards, I think I was having like 3 or 4, certainly 3 private classes a week with sort of fairly notable instructors that were in the UK. But I think I talked about this in the car, about the sort of my Japanese grandmaster, the Bujinkan Ninjutsu grandmaster Masaki Hatsumi, talks about injuries. He says everyone who's studying martial arts should really consider the way they train, because it makes little sense training for sort of 30, 40 years to stop other people hurting you when the way you train hurts yourself.
Sure.
So I think, for me, that stuck in my head, and I thought, all I'm doing, I started martial arts to defend myself. So it was, for me, like really counterproductive, as I said, to sort of smash yourself up through your training.
Yeah, that's like, I've actually never heard anyone mention that, but it makes complete sense, which is you're trying to do it to not get hurt by other people, and you end up hurting yourself.
You're the one that is giving you knee problems, that
Sure.
It's as bad as if someone stamped through your knee, or they twisted your back or whatever. So for me, it's like, that's more so because of my age, I'd say, because as we all know, we get older, it takes longer to heal.
Yeah. So from purple belt on towards your black, you didn't train in classes, you just did.
Yeah, I just did privates.
Wow,
yeah.
That's an interesting route. I think it's not a very common one.
No. So when I got to black belt, what I realised was that I was really good, or pretty good, at escaping shit. Because
you were still rolling, but you were rolling with black belt.
Yeah, no, but like world champions. People that, most of them were world champions, like Felipe Souza, Sal Rangel was the first person. Obviously, Mauricio at that time was coming and going. Royce taught me for a significant time. that kind of protected me, because my theory was at the time was the people that were going to bust me up were the white belts particularly, and some overzealous blue belts.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely the case. Yeah,
that's what I figured at the
You weren't going to
time.
pick up big injuries from. I think when you're rolling with world champions, it's probably, obviously they know what they're doing.
Yeah,
their body's a lot more controlled.
Yes,
but actually their output isn't anywhere near their maximum. I think when you get injured, it's because someone is going 110%.
and doing crazy shit as well.
Yeah, and
they're wrapping your legs up and then going, whoa, let's jump this way and see what happens.
Yeah, and when you're rolling with someone who's that much better than you, they're never having to
output that massive amount of force.
Yeah.
But most of the time, though, I must say that I was being squashed, and particularly by people like Roger and stuff like that. That most of the time was trying to get out of stuff and then going from one bad position to the next.
Yeah.
So hitting black belt, I think there's a big part of my game that was missing. My guard wasn't too bad, but I know my top game was atrocious because I never got a chance to do it.
And you're finishing as well, probably.
Yeah. No, guard finishing wasn't too bad, but the top game was almost missing.
Sure,
completely.
You were just having to learn off your back the entire time.
Yeah. And also because I was teaching at my own place, I felt bad about if I tried to just get on top of my students and crush them and lock them up. I thought I've got, as a instructor, have to let them play a bit and move around, and so then guard was the perfect place to do that.
That's kind of weird. So the two different people that you were training with were world champion black belts, Roger Gracie's and stuff like that, and then your white belt students.
Yes, yeah.
So the two absolute polar opposite sides of the spectrum, but you're ending up on your back in guard for completely different reasons.
But mostly I was on my back.
Yeah, because obviously with the high...
Or someone on my back.
Yeah. With the high-level guys, you're on your back because they're putting you there.
Yeah.
And with the low-level guys, you're on your back because you don't want to go on top and smash them.
Yeah, exactly that.
You should have just smashed up the white belt, I think.
Well, nowadays, I'm a little bit less inclined to be generous and let them play.
Sure.
I'll probably start on my back and let them have a dominant position and then get out, and then because I want to play my top game more often now, because it makes better sense for me as as I'm getting older. It's much easier for me to use my weight on top of the person than for me having the weight on top of me.
Sure. So did you do much sort of you got the black belt, kind of analysed yourself and realised that your guard game was a lot superior?
So, like a lot of people say, you get your black belt, but that's the beginning. That's exactly how I felt.
Really?
I felt very much that, okay, so you have the house and garden. I've walked down the path to the front door and I've still got the whole house to explore.
Sure.
And I felt like I always do with any grade, that regardless of how it's given, I always feel that I need to grow into it. Is not what I am right now. I don't believe that I am that grade at that time. I think often people grade me, or I don't have any kind of illusion that this is what I'm worth. I think I've got to fill the boots. Has always been my attitude.
Yeah, I think there's so much of there's such a wide spectrum of skill level in between the bottom and the top of a grade. The difference in level between a low-level blue belt or a brand new blue belt and a world champion blue belt is just cataclysmic. It's such a big difference.
It's colossal.
So most people, you're not. They expect to be graded and come in. I'm good at jiu-jitsu. I'm a good blue belt.
Yeah.
I'm good at jiu-jitsu. So when I'm a purple belt, I'm still good at jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
But sometimes you have to start at the bottom of that and work your way into it. And some people do come in and they have the ability to come in. You see people who win the worlds at purple belt one year, get their brown belt, win the worlds at brown the next year, get their black belt and win the. It's
the natural talents.
Yeah, exactly. It's not a lot of people, but
see, I'd never say myself that I was a natural talent. I'd just probably say that I'm the person that doesn't really give up.
Yeah.
I just keep hammering away, and the more I can't do something, the more it frustrates me and drives me to keep going.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting thing about people. You can put people into two categories, and that's and in how they deal with frustration, because that's an emotion that everyone has to deal with. And some people deal with frustration by not wanting to confront that thing that's frustrating them, and the other people are really highly motivated by that frustration.
I'm like a dog with a bone. I was a purple belt, I think, for 5 years.
Wow.
And at times I was thinking, maybe I can't do this. Maybe I am just shit, and I will never ever get past this purple belt. Will never come. There were literally times, you can imagine, like, 3.5 years, 4 years in, you're going, and it still seems like, because I'm training with these like elite people, it seems so far away, and going, I'm not even close to being as good as these guys. I'm not catching them. All I'm doing is moving from one really bad position to the next.
Yeah. You know what? It's so important for people who are black belts now to tell stories about how frustrated they were that they didn't think they were going to get the next grade.
Yeah.
Because I know so many people who have been a white belt for years, have been a blue belt for years, purple or whatever. They've been a certain belt for years. They've got frustrated and they feel like they're never going to be a black belt. It's so refreshing to hear a black belt say.
Because I came from 5 years of judo before, which I was training about 3 times a week for 2 hours each session. So I had a pretty good, and it was a time obviously when there's a much more or much higher emphasis on the newaza. So if you went to the ground, you would stay there for like you probably have about 15-20 seconds to get on with stuff. And so I thought, I can do this. I've got an idea. So I think I went to the Gracie Academy in, God, it was about, I'm trying to think now, 98, 99, something like that. I got killed by everyone except the white belt that started like 6 months before. I think, okay.
It's so, the newaza is so different from grappling, isn't it?
Yeah. The stuff that I knew was so much more strength based.
Sure.
And just like,
I think judo guys are so, physicality is such a big part of throwing. You can't really throw people if you're not strong to some degree. Whereas in jiu-jitsu, you do have people who are a lot weaker who are able to become a lot more proficient than you have in judo. So I think that when the judo guys do their newaza, because they have such a strong basis in physicality, that carries over a lot to the technical side of the newaza.
Yeah, no, I remember just all being a lot of strength on the. Maybe I was doing it really badly. In judo, I just remember like just holding people down and stuff like that. And,
no, I think that's accurate.
Revelation to have this moving under the hips so you can roll people over you more easily and all the leverage stuff that we're taught.
Yeah, well, if you think about it, it was. Jiu-jitsu has this, Brazilian Jiu-jitsu has this whole thing about you don't have to be strong to do Jiu-jitsu.
Yes.
And that's one of the most widely preached principles of Brazilian
Jiu-jitsu. This is actually why it links in so well with the other art that I do, the Bujinkan Budo Taijutsu, or some people call it ninjutsu still, but because that's the same thing. It's all about efficiency. Exactly the same principles, but within that system, only 3 of the Ryuho, the schools, are ninjutsu based. The other 6 are jujitsu based, and so
traditional Japanese jujitsu based.
So it's little. I guess it's a little surprise. I think jujitsu as a whole, the concept is efficiency and leverage and all the principles that we study in the jujitsu. The Brazilian jiu-jitsu.
But I think so much of that came from. Obviously, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu came from Judo through the Gracies, but it was the Gracies and the fact that they were smaller and weaker that really took the physicality out of it.
I'm guessing at a time, you probably can see it more now. So already, I'm guessing, because Judo came out of Jiu-Jitsu, so the Jiu-Jitsu has spent a lot of time, I'm talking about Japanese Jiu-Jitsu now, where efficiency leverage was important. But then as Judo evolved, and we can see it now as the bigger and stronger guy is getting more and more effective. So probably the trend almost started at the beginning of the inception of Judo, when they picked all the techniques that they wanted out of Jiu-Jitsu and then compiled them together. That right from the outset, you can see with the size of Kimura and the success that he had and all these dudes, that maybe right from the beginning, strength and physicality was becoming a more and more defining part of the game. And it's got to continue to do so. And then, as you say, then the Gracies got hold of it already.
Almost reset it a little
bit. Yeah,
exactly. But then it's coming through now.
So it's quite interesting to think about it. If you think about it in that, the sort of the ages of
it is
the
interesting.
Art.
It is. It makes sense. The the traditional jiu-jitsu stuff, which was very technique based, and then the judo made it into a sport.
Yeah.
Sportsmen are always going to try and
strength and power is a commodity.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, in sport, you're always looking for the smallest advantage, and so the physicality comes in. Then it went to Brazil, and the Gracies learned it, but not as a sport. I think this is the important thing.
Exactly.
It was turned into a self-defense again. So where the technique
which is much more the jiu-jitsu the Japanese jiu-jitsu I study is much more orientated towards that opposed to the sport aspect.
Yeah. So you know we brought up a lot. Let's talk about your martial arts history a little bit. So how did you first get into martial arts?
So when I was a young boy, probably starting from 9 onwards, I used to play cricket, rugby. I went through the privileged educational system, so I did all those traditional games. And was one of the top team players. But as soon as I got to the secondary school, public school, judo was on the curriculum. So immediately I dropped everything that I'd been in love with for the previous 3 or 4 years, and just all I wanted to do was judo.
Why was that?
I don't know.
Really?
I don't know.
You were just drawn towards it?
I think maybe it was to do with like the Kung Fu series a bit and that kind of stuff. I don't know. I've always had an affinity with
martial arts stuff.
Wrestling and grappling and fighting and stuff like that. So it intrigued me, and to have something structured on the curriculum that I could go and practice and train and study was awesome for me. That's all I wanted to do. And mostly kids used to swap in and out of stuff from term to term, and all I did was just judo every single term for 5 years.
Wow.
Whereas literally people would be going, okay, let's try this term, let's go and do that this term, let's go swimming, we'll go rock climbing.
You had no interest, you just wanted to do judo.
All I wanted to do was do judo. And out of that, I won the school's championships twice. So I think the first time I won it was when I was lower fifth, so I'm guessing about 14 or 15. And the protocol at the school there, which was Brighton College, was that you get your school colours, which is, like you're one of the elite sports players in the school. And because I was so young, you weren't really supposed to get it until you were lower sixth.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So they pretended it kind of didn't happen. But then I won it the next year, which was then upper fifth. And even though I was still too young, I don't think even then they thought, well, you can't really not give it to him. So I think I was the youngest kid in the school to get school colours.
Wow.
Yeah. So then after that, I thought striking. We need to do a bit of striking, kicking and stuff like that. So I locally in Bexhill, where my parents used to live sort of not far away from there, there was a Kyokushin class.
Karate.
Yes. Yeah. So I went and did two years of that on and off with a guy called Steve Arnell, who's like very famous in the Kyokushin karate world. So I did that for 2 years, and then sort of mixed in a bit with that, and then carrying on from there, from sort of 81 to 85, I did a sort of mixed style of Kung Fu, which again we did sparring in it, we did punching, kicking, a few locks, not too much.
Were you still doing the judo and the Kyokushin?
No, this is kind of going sequentially. Okay. So so when I left school, I think that it did occur to me that I needed to hit stuff. Because I hadn't really done that very much. So that was my focus then. Then I went to uni, and there was Taekwondo on the curriculum, which was being taught by Ebby Ganser. Yeah. Do you know him?
Yeah, I do know Ebby. I've known Ebby for 12 years.
This is freaking weird. So he's teaching there. And he was a great instructor, but also he was an Olympian. Yeah. So it was the time, I think he was either just going. I think he was just going to the Seoul Olympics for the exhibition event. Having Taekwondo as the exhibition Olympic event. So it's a big deal. It's a big deal. And so I met a few of his comrades and stuff. But going now to the London Olympics, a really funny story. We went to see I took my little son to see the judo. We got two days of judo, and then I was like literally
in the London one.
Yeah. I was literally fired up. I got to see more of this stuff, and I put out on my Facebook. I said, is anyone who can get me more tickets? I want to maybe go Taekwondo or something like that. And I sent Ebby one, and I sent some other guys that I knew that were also in the Olympic team, and they all going, you must be joking. This is impossible. Anyway, a friend out of the blue was working for the he's driving the delegates around, and he said, "Look, I've got 2 spare tickets
No way.
to Taekwondo." And I go, "Fine, that's cool." So I go there, and he goes, "Look, in different parts of the arena." So he gets 2 of the tickets out. He says, "We're not going to sit together, so one of us is going to go this way," and he goes, "Pick which one you want." So I pick one. I go and sit down, and then someone squeezes me in the back of the neck. I look round, it's Ebby, just literally sitting right behind me. And it was like really weird.
So he was saying that he couldn't get you tickets because he got the tickets.
Exactly. He got the ball. Yeah. And I think some of the people that I used to or were at the same poly uni that I was at were there as well. So you gave them to someone else.
Okay.
I wasn't important enough. So then Taekwondo. Then I got in about 87. I'd always been fascinated all through my whole. So from 18 years old onwards, I've been kind of seeing these ninja books,
sure,
and Stephen Hayes' books and Hatsumi Sensei's books. I'm going, what the heck's this all about? This kind of looks weird, where it's got everything. It's got all aspects. It's got weapons. It's got unarmed. It's got
walking,
everything, all aspects of like some ancient like thing, martial arts. So I think, okay, let's give that a try. So I went and started in 87. I started to do that, and reasonably quickly, I found the right people. Someone actually mentioned Brian McCarthy in one of the messages on your thing, which maybe we'll do at the end. But I started off with his group, and then we'll get into why I didn't carry on there. But then got into some people like Peter King and a guy called Chris Rowoff who were going to Japan regularly, training with this Grandmaster regularly. I started training more and more with them, and a more legitimate technique was coming through, and so I was learning that. And I'm trying to think the timeline now, but probably 1990, I'd say. Went to a Taikai in America to train with the Japanese Grandmaster, and then soon after then was doing multiple trips to Japan all around the world, because he was in a phase of his life where he was literally teaching like 4 or 5 times around the world, and obviously in Japan. So I used to go in and train with him as much as I could. So
the ninja stuff really grabbed you?
Oh, yeah. So what was very interesting for me with the ninja stuff is that I had sort of reasonably good unarmed skills, and they kind of, in a way, a lot of the stuff that I'd already done before complemented complemented what they wanted me to do in ninjutsu. Yeah. So I already had like quite a good base. Like the judo base was excellent, and some of the striking, although it's slightly different in the ninja to the way the karate present it, was useful, and the flexibility, of course, for me was very useful. But more so was the fact that when you pick up a weapon, you don't go, oh, now I've got this weapon, so now I need to move like this, or I need to move like that. It's just the same.
Okay. It's the same as the unarmed stuff?
Yes, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So you don't think, okay, this is my hand and now I've got to change it. This is my sword. It's the same movement.
Sure.
Which for me was like really, really interesting, that everything complemented each other and fitted perfectly together. And I got, as I do, I got quite obsessed with it. I went to Hawaii, I think, for 3 days to train with this Japanese Grandmaster.
Is ninjutsu big out in Hawaii?
Well, he was in there. He was doing what was called American Taikai, which was a big meeting where he'd haul in people from wherever. And I was obviously one of the people that came in from freaking miles away. I watched. I watched Under Siege 1 in the evening, which is about a missile flying off a battleship going towards Hawaii, which was quite funny.
Just to get you psyched up.
Yeah. So I watched that while I was in Hawaii. So that probably will give some people a timeline when that was, because it was just out in the had just come out in the cinemas then. And then we carried on training, and I got. Do you know anything about the 5th Dan test we do in the ninja stuff? So I'm just trying to work out.
This is fast forwarding quite a bit.
Yeah, because then you're training away. But bearing in mind that I'm training probably 4 or 5 times a year with this Japanese Grandmaster, going to Tokyo.
So from when you started ninjutsu,
yes,
what sort of age were you roughly?
I think I was 28.
Okay.
Something like that, 27, 28.
And then you trained exclusively in the ninjutsu
Yes, I
stuff.
trained exclusively in that and obsessed with it. Sort of training, I think I was driving all around the country at one time. So when I couldn't train with the Grandmaster, I'd be around, I used to drive down to Eastbourne to go and train down there. Yeah. I used to, not so far away, was to Croydon, South Croydon to train with Peter King, and then out to Harrow, I think it was, to train with a guy called Chris Ruff, who were very high up guys in the thing at the time. So sort of doing it probably at least three times a week, for a couple of hours each session. So come 2000, I get chosen to do the fifth Dan test, which is basically your teaching license. Basically, you then it enables you to legitimately teach the system. So you kneel down. This Japanese grandmaster stands behind you with a shinai, which is a bamboo Japanese sword,
like a kendo stick.
Yes, yeah, exactly, exactly that. And of course you can't see him, and he'll try and whack you on the head.
Yeah,
and you have to move out the way.
I've seen this.
It's really, really weird because at school I came from a background of like totally maths, science.
Yeah.
That's bullshit. It can't work.
Yeah.
How can it possibly work? You hear the wind,
yeah,
or you hear something creak, or you hear something. It's like watching the first few people. What I notice is once the sword starts to move and makes enough noise, it's going way too fast to suddenly go, oh, I'll get out of the way. So that for me, and I thought, what I'm going to do is I'll just sit here, because if it's bullshit, I'm going to get hit.
Yeah.
And what I don't want to be doing is a guy that's jumping around trying to get out the way when he's not doing anything, because he holds it up there, and sometimes he'll hold it up there for a full minute. He won't give you a timing where you can pick up his rhythm or anything like that. And what was really weird, which even now, but particularly for the 2 weeks afterwards, was it's like, how the fuck did that happen? Because it felt like he pushed me out, or someone pushed me out of the way.
So you knelt there, and you were just ready to get hit in the head.
Yeah, I just sat there and I go, let's see if this works.
Yeah.
It was really, I can't tell you.
And he went to hit you. And
you dodged it. And then suddenly I was looking up, I was lying on my side and I was looking up at the thing come past where I was sitting.
Yeah.
But it really felt, because what I don't remember is thinking, God, I've got to move.
Wow.
What it felt like was something pushed me. It's really, really weird. I can't tell you. It's an extraordinary experience. The only other time I've had that was I was messing around with some friends of mine, kids, and they're probably about 10, 11, 12. And one of them got really pissed off with me. And I go, right, I'm not playing anymore. And I walk away, and this kid lobs like a rugby ball at my head. And I don't know, I was walking, and I just went like that, boom, and the ball
just
went
matrixed it.
Yeah, no, it's really weird. But I think it all goes back to stuff that we understand, like flow.
Yeah.
Everything's inside us. It's not remarkable. I think it's something that we have inside of, but it's accessing it is the freaking difficult bit.
Yeah, so what is the reason that the ninjutsu school gives for what they would, firstly, do they have a name or anything that refers to that awareness and that ability?
Saki, which is the killing intent.
Okay, so
killing feeling.
Yeah, you know what? I used to really be into traditional martial arts.
Yeah.
When I was a kid.
Yeah.
Before I started Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I was like, I read the books and I watched the TV shows and the movies and everything like that. And I've seen that. And you're meant to sense the intent.
Yeah. But the person has to have intent.
Yeah.
So if they go, boom, 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 now I'm going to hit you on the head every time.
Yeah.
If they go, bang, and try and whack
that sounds
you on
like
the head.
that sounds like the sort of thing that they'd give an excuse for so they could smack you in the head.
Yeah.
Like Jesus Christ, that fucking hurt. Like, well, I had to have the killing intent.
So the thing about it is, if you track back then to original times.
Yeah.
So this is the thing. So obviously, if you're a grandmaster, you should be able to hide that intent. So that was his choice. If he thought, actually,
that's some real Jedi shit, isn't it?
You're rubbish. You're rubbish, and I just want to get rid of you.
Yeah.
Then you go, oh shit, you failed. But of course, in those times, it was a real sword.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it's a final sanction that the Grandmaster had if he thought either you were a bad person or you were just rubbish.
And the sentence for being rubbish would be death?
Death, maybe. Maybe. It was a hard time. It was a hard time in feudal Japan.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's interesting. And, I'm kind of like you, and it's refreshing to hear someone who, from a traditional martial arts background, who's done that, who doesn't say, I felt the intent.
Yeah, no. I was totally cynical about it because, as I said, I grew up with doing maths and physics were my A levels.
Yeah.
So it was like, this happens because that happens because this happens, and if you do this, that definitely happens. And then there's this thing that comes along, you go, I don't know what that is.
Yeah. I'm sure that there is something scientific that you could work out about it. We just maybe haven't worked out yet. But it is an interesting thing.
There's a different aspect to that. So I don't know. Have you done much striking stuff?
No.
So when people are punching at you and stuff, we're always taught to look at the person's sort of just at the centre of their forehead to get peripheral on their eyes.
Yeah.
Scientifically, I think now they're saying that subconsciously we pick up a minor sort of movement of the pupils or something like that, and that gives us timing. I don't know how true that is, but I read that somewhere.
I'm sure
recently.
that sounds very plausible.
Yeah. So we're like a lot of things out of what comes out of sort of mythical stuff and stuff. There's actually eventually there's some scientific proof.
That's the thing. Everything that happens, whether you can explain it or not at the time, at some point in the future, you're probably
we'll
going to
have
be able to explain it.
Exactly. No, there's as they say, did gravity exist before Newton?
Yeah, and you know what? So, kind of off topic, but same sort of thing about the awareness and stuff like that. I have a friend of mine who's he's like a neuroscientist.
Yes, yeah,
and he's doing research at the moment about basically about personal space and awareness.
Yes,
for blind people.
Yes, yeah.
In that blind people can react to stuff come into their face.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because
so this will be this will be the kind of
but
stuff
but not even that. It's like it sounds ridiculous when I say it, but hear me out.
Yeah.
So it's a particular type of blindness. I'm not talking if their eyes were covered, but a particular type of blindness where the sight stuff, the connection to the brain, so you can actually see things, they don't have that connection.
So like the optic nerve is damaged.
I don't know precisely what it is, but they can't see anything.
Yes, it's like physically impossible to even get a glimmer.
Yeah, but there's something else in the eyes that are giving them kind of bypassing the image and going straight to the autonomous reaction to it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So it's really, really interesting that there is stuff like that, and obviously not the same sort of thing, but definitely.
Well, no, I think it is. I think it might be the same sort of thing that you're picking up either movement or you're picking up something, but not with your regular senses. And I think the Grandmaster that I study under talks about this, is that as we get more sort of cultured and civilized, so to speak, so we lose a lot of our senses that we used to rely on when we were more, dinosaurs are trying to eat us and stuff like that. Well, not that they did. I don't think there was a crossover between humans and dinosaurs.
No, there wasn't. Dinosaurs definitely tried to eat something that were our ancestors.
Yes,
though.
Yeah, okay.
We might have been like a tiny rodent at the time. There's some part of us that.
Yes. Yeah.
One of your ancestors got eaten by a dinosaur. Almost certainly.
I know someone's going to go, no, dinosaurs didn't cross over with the humans
dinosaurs ate someone that's related to us, all of us.
So there's something, some predator that was around in our distant past. Maybe that's the sort of stuff we need, or just other humans.
Yeah, absolutely. And
to survive, when there's probably not as much food around, and
that's the whole thing about sort of evolution.
If we believe in Darwinism.
Evolution and stuff like that is that we've been around and we've been evolving and we have instincts that go back hundreds of thousands of years or millions of years. And
I think it's all part of that. I don't think it's remarkable. I think it's just
unexplained.
It's innate.
Yeah, that's interesting. So kind of you're talking about that grading. How do the grade system work in ninjutsu?
It's complicated is all I'd say.
Really?
And it's I don't know. In my opinion, it's over generous because when you look at something like, so you got weirdly, I've got the two ends of the spectrum. I've got what you could consider you can get graded pretty quickly in, and you've got Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is nearly impossible. Yeah.
Was that kind of just a tangent off of that? What grade were you in ninjutsu when you started Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu?
I think 8th degree black belts.
Yeah. And did you have any other black belts in other martial arts?
I think I've got a 2nd degree in some sort of European Jiu-Jitsu Federation thing, which I don't really count.
So did it, did it kind of blow your mind?
Oh, yeah.
When you started Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu?
It's a massively humbling experience to be choked out by Royce Gracie in about 40 seconds.
But not even just that, and we'll get onto that for sure.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that was. But I'm talking just in the grading system.
Yeah.
Did it, because you went from, how often do you get graded in ninjutsu? Starting from white belt. I don't know what the belts are.
So actually, I think certainly in my club, I look at roughly a 3-year period of regular attendance, and
to get black belt
skill sets. Yeah, good skill sets.
So how many grades are there between white and black belt?
10.
Yeah. So you're looking at 3 years. So you're getting graded every couple of months. Really.
The way I work it is, and the way I think I was graded as well, is I do it like twice a year, once a year.
Okay.
And I go, actually, because we've not done it for a while, you actually now worth a bit more than just the next grade up.
Sure.
It's not, I don't do it like the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu system where you have to go like step by step.
Sure.
And what I do as well is I don't do like a formal grading, as the Grandmaster doesn't. He watches you while you're not aware, and he'll just suddenly come up to you and go, I think you'll work.
Okay, so there isn't actually
so you can't
grading.
So what I found weird when I was doing judo, so you'd swat up on like you've got to do these 2 throws or these 3 throws, and you've got to do this hold down, and then you've got to do your randori. I could see that there's a lot of people that would swat up for just that thing, and you ask them, can you show me that throw like 6 months down the line? I go, we forgot to do that part of the movement. And so it takes away that aspect. But then, again, like all these things, there's good and bad in both of them. What you need is a blend of the two. So personally, I think the grades in the Bujinkan are too free.
Sure.
Personally, to maintain quality, if it was me, and it's not me, and so it's the Grandmaster system, so he can do he deals with it the way he wishes, so I can't critique that. But if it was me, I would I'd be a little bit harsher, I think, on the grades.
Do you think did you have that belief system before you started Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu?
Yes,
or was it,
yeah.
Oh, you did?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because you'd think that maybe...
I think this is where the idea that grades are presented to you ahead of your time, and you've got to freaking... Now your job is to fill those boots.
Yeah.
And I think there's a big part of that. Certainly, I feel it. I don't know if other people feel it, but for me, I feel that when I'm graded, and it has, as I said a bit earlier, as it's carried across into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, that was just like something to. I keep going.
Yeah.
Now do with what you can.
Like stripes.
Yes.
In Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah. You're still moving, but you need to keep going. You've got to keep going. Don't believe what you're worth that now, because I think you have the potential to be that.
Yeah.
But you've just got to keep going.
Yeah. And let's talk a little bit more about the ninjutsu stuff.
Yes.
It's the Bujinkan.
Bujinkan.
Yeah. Sort of. I'm super intrigued about this, so I will kind of want to know as much as possible about the ninja stuff. Going back to old Japan.
Yes.
Give me as kind of the brief history of ninjas. Basically.
Okay. So I have my opinion, which is shared by some people, and of course there'll be some people. Oh no, he was talking rubbish.
Yeah.
In basic terms, I think what you have is you have people that are living in the mountains outside the sort of regular system. They were people that were studying a different sort of religious belief. They kept themselves to themselves. They were farmers, I think. But then as a consequence, because they became kind of mysterious, and I think maybe they harboured some sort of Chinese martial artists at times, because when the wars in China, some of these guys used to flee across the sea and come into Japan and hide up in the hills. So you've got that. So that's why you've got this sort of martial kind of viewpoint. But the most important thing with the whole ninja thing is that it's living in harmony, is what the real teaching is. It's trying to live in harmony where you are with what you're doing and stuff like that. So within that, so you've got these people living up in the mountains, and you've got these sort of shoguns and the samurai. They're going, who are these dudes up there doing something totally different? They're kind of out of
rebels,
the realm. Well, I don't think they were troublesome, but they were out of the realm of control. Maybe they wanted taxes off them or whatever.
Sure.
So conflict arose, as we can even see today between minority groups that keep themselves to themselves. You know, we can see that.
People in power don't like it when people don't conform.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't necessarily wasn't they were not conforming. They just weren't, you know, as we, you know, people that in minority groups, religious minority groups, people are going, what the hell are these dudes up to? So they go up and they obviously the samurai and the shoguns try to pressurize them into doing what they want them to do. And so out of that, then they learn, okay, we've got all these skills that are nature-based, but now we've got fighting. We need to use fighting skills. So often the weapons are based around implements they use for farming and stuff like that. So they start to develop these very sophisticated skill sets. Because
back in those days in Japan, it was illegal for you to own weapons unless you were a samurai, correct?
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
I know that there were a lot of the sickles, the sais, a lot of that stuff.
Yeah,
it was
for cutting the grass and stuff like that. Yeah. So there's a thing called a shoge, which is like a curved blade and a pointed blade, and they put a chain on the end of it and a weight, and you can use that to disarm a swordsman. So they're trying to hold their own against the plundering samurai and stuff like that. But obviously within that, families are getting bigger. There's not enough land to support them. So then family members start to move out to around Japan to sort of get more work and whatever, and create new lives, because the small village is getting just overcrowded, which is natural. But then that sets up a perfect spy network. So, you know, if someone wants to know what's going on in that harbour over on the other side, let's call up Uncle John and see what he can see. So, you know, these guys have got the sort of unique skill sets, but then also happen to be uniquely located.
Sure.
And then the assassin bit is a very, very small part of it. You know, like all groups of people, there's some what we consider be bad people. Yeah. And so the assassin bit were those what we would consider those bad people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So kind of the way that I guess popular culture has
because they know it's seductive, isn't it?
Is that they are
black.
Yeah, exactly. Does that have any truth in history or?
It's kind of does, but what I've been taught is that you hide in plain sight.
Yeah.
So you'd dress up as the gardener. Yeah. And wander into the castle as the gardener, or what ever. You wouldn't be. So if anyone generally be the dude in the black suit with which I think came out.
That sticks out a little bit more.
Yeah, I think it comes out of theatre, that idea of being the guy in black.
Yeah.
I think historically it comes out of theatre, which you can't definitely say there weren't people that sort of infiltrated castles, but the other interesting thing is everyone thinks, ninjutsu, it's all about fighting. It's not. It's about getting away, escaping. So if you imagine that you're special forces and you're a team of 2 or 3 that's trying to get into the castle, the last thing you want to do is confront a whole horde of samurai. Yeah. What you want to do is if you're encountered, you want to escape. If they're grabbing you, you want to escape and get away using blinding powders, whatever. The jujitsu side of the thing is the fighting bit, where you study fighting and the strategies and the techniques for fighting. Whereas if you start, what appears to be the most seductive and interesting bit, actually, when you actually start training it, for me anyway, is now become the least interesting bit.
The fighting side?
No, the escaping side.
The escaping side is the least
like
interesting.
The fighting side.
Yeah. So okay. Yeah, because I guess there's so many aspects of it.
Yes.
The fighting stuff. So when you say escaping, it's the physically escaping people.
Yes, yeah, and then having a strategy of trying not to encounter, to move stealthily through places, so to avoid encounters.
Yeah.
That's the fundamental thing. One of the techniques is to how do you jump up on top of a wall and hide on top of a wall. Wow. So if a security guard is walking past, they don't see you.
And so through the years, I guess when we went from this, the old, almost ancient ninja stuff, and then how did that transform into the schools of ninjutsu that are around still today?
So then you have battles where ninja are employed by the shoguns and stuff like that, sometimes for strategists. So they go, look, we need to be in this position here, but I'll tell you, in like a day or 2 days, it's going to rain.
Yeah.
And so that's going to make this area really bad for the other dudes, the enemy that are trying to get through there.
So the Shogun did actually employ...
Yes, yeah, I think that's a historical... I believe that's historical fact.
These little bands of ninjas eventually became quite a big...
Well, some of them got employed.
Sure.
You know, if you look at it like society, you've got some people that were just farmers, you've got some people that were mums and dads, whatever, and you've got some people that were pretty good at what they do, and the shoguns will go, okay, you seem to know what you're doing, why don't you come and work for me, but I would need you to tell me specific information, because that was also part of, because of this closeness with nature, they could more, you know, it must have seemed like wizardry or something like that. We go, in 2 days' time it will rain, because they were observant of what was going on with cloud and stuff like that.
Yeah,
you know, there's a whole load of information in a book called the Bansen Shukai, which, you know, I think it tells you can tell what time of day it is by the shape of a cat's eye or something like that.
Wait, 1 second.
You know, it's.
How do you spell that?
It's BAN. You know, there's some crazy stuff in that. BANSEN.
SEN.
And I think it's SHUKAI.
Okay, that's a nice long word. Okay,
but it's like the book on ninja craft.
Okay, that's the one. Yeah. That's going on my Amazon. I'm one clip behind that.
You're looking out for you running along the rooftops.
Man, you know what? I had some books. I was big into that. You know, like
were you?
Yeah, I was. Before I got into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I had the. Yeah, I was obsessed with traditional martial arts. I didn't do many of them. And or I'd go around and I'd do here and there, and I never really got into one for a prolonged period of time. But I love that shit, and I love the whole ninja culture, and the samurai culture, and all of the. You know, I got some cool old books. So I'm kind of. I feel quite nostalgic. I've got a
£1,000 book that the Grandmaster wrote. Like, I don't know, when he was obviously much younger, and it's out of print now, but it basically details all the basic techniques. So I think there was a time when he felt that he was dying. He was like really unwell for quite some time, and he thought, shit, because he's the head of 9 schools, and I think basically what he did is, I think he did what Jigoro Kano did with Judo. He went, right, okay, to form the Bujinkan, and my legacy, if I die, is I'm going to pick what I consider the best techniques from all the different schools, compile them in this book, and that's basically become the fundamentals of what we do. And then you go out and start to not specialize, but you start to study the individual schools themselves.
So how did those? I guess I want the connection between the Grandmasters of the last 100 years, and going back. to
This is a really interesting piece. So. What's unique about the guy that I study under, as far as I can see, and again, some people will dispute this, but more or less, he's been handed down scrolls from one Grandmaster to the previous one to the previous one. And from what I understand is, so in your lifetime, you have to add on your next sheet of paper or 2 sheets of paper on the end of the scroll to see what's current in your lifetime. So obviously in his lifetime, guns have become a lot more prevalent, maybe knife attacks, sword not so important now, etc., etc. But if society were to collapse and we can't make any more guns, we can't, or bullets probably is more better way of explaining it. So the factories stop over a period of time, everything draws to halt. Suddenly we're going to get plunged back into using bows and arrows, spears, and stuff like that. Oh, let's look back at this Grandmaster's generation.
That was the intention.
And that covers the skills in that time.
Wow.
Yeah. So so
some sort of nuclear apocalypse.
Yes, exactly.
And we go back to some Mad Max dystopian.
Yeah, and you go, how do you use that sharp stick?
Yeah,
efficiently. So from that aspect, and the heritage, and how even then they thought up about something like that, as because what you would think is, you go, no, this is the way you do it, and that's the way it should stay.
Yeah,
rather than. This is the way we do it.
Yes,
Which
you don't see from a lot of traditional martial arts.
Yeah. And then to go, okay, but we need to continuously evolve.
Wow, that's a really refreshing mindset.
But having said that, there's a lot of people in the Bujinkan who are stuck in that traditional viewpoint, and they totally forget that
the philosophy was about progress and evolution.
Yeah, and grabbing what's current and using what's current rather than going, oh yeah, but you know what we need to do is learn how to do this cut with this sword. Perfectly.
Yeah, I think,
and I'm going to offend a lot of people.
Well, you know, I think I don't know. There's people so I can offend them. I think the problem that you have is a lot of people naturally don't want things to change.
Yes, that's true.
They don't want stuff to evolve.
A massive mental inertia.
The reason for that is that they don't want to have to continue to study. You know.
God, I'd hate to think it was that.
I think for a lot of people, they feel that once they reach a certain level of mastery over something...
Yeah, maybe you're right. I don't understand because it's so alien to me. Like, if I'm not learning something, it's like I'm dying. It almost feels like I'm dying or it's time to die. If I've ever got to a stage where I know it all now, I'm finished, there's nothing more that anyone can teach me, I think... that's probably my time to die.
Well, I think that's absolutely the correct philosophy, but I don't think that is a philosophy that's shared by a lot of people.
Yeah,
I think,
you may be right.
I think that there are a lot of people out there. I think that you can probably put people into two categories, and that is the forever a student, who no matter how much they learn, they want to learn more. Actually, that is the appeal of whatever it is that they're learning.
Totally.
That you continue taking information.
Yeah, for me, this is that me.
And then the other kind of person who they want to be a master and they want to be a know-it-all. They want to know everything, and if the category is always expanding, then it's impossible to know everything.
But even before you even think about it expanding, if you think about the polishing you have to do to get one technique like absolutely perfect. So I don't think any of my techniques are absolutely perfect. So my attitude is, even with the fundamental basic moves, I still can learn a little bit more, even if it's just that you hold the person's hand like here or here. It makes there's always, from Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, there's always tiny detail. That guy's 100%. Got a freaking cool detail there, which I haven't seen before, I've not figured out.
Yeah, even for me personally, that's something that I really enjoy. Continuing to learn stuff, but learning stuff about stuff that I think I know. Really, really well.
Like Nick G's that sweep he got from Dickie Martin. The sit-up sweep. We go, I know that move, but just that little detail of creating the push and pull. The
exactly.
Action, reaction.
You never
movement.
I'm the same as you. I never want to be telling myself that I know that there's nothing else to learn. But I do think that there are some people that have that mentality.
So I know. So when I started, my only kind of objective is that let's get to black belt and see how I feel in anything.
Okay, yeah.
It's never, and it's because I kept on thinking, God, maybe it's because I'm shit and I just have to go. I'm stuck now because I've got some grade now, so I need to keep going to validate it. But I've always had the learning thing was the important thing of improving and polishing away. But I guess some people just want that, and then they're done. Yeah,
they want to be able to say, I know all of it.
Yeah.
So going back to the ninjutsu stuff, you've got that is really interesting that there was a philosophy and evolution and progress and learning within the kind of built into the original system.
And this is also then, to tie in the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu very briefly, I don't understand. So there's a lot of resistance. So when I first started doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, there's a lot of people that are going, you're blending techniques. You've gone to the dark side. This
is so common from traditional martial arts.
How could you possibly do that? You're a charlatan, etc., etc. But now you fast forward now, 18 years on.
Yeah.
A few of those people and a lot of other people are going, oh, God, I wish we'd done that. And they're now beginning to embrace it. But at the time, the heat that I used to get from people and, the sideways looks and all that kind of stuff as I was breaking the code and it's like, Oh, well, but then you see the Grandmaster's not like that.
Yeah.
He's not that dude. He was the dude that when Royce was winning the UFCs, I think in 94, no, 90, probably a bit later, 95, I'd say. I was training with him for his birthday, a thing called the Daikomyosai. Just after that, he was teaching a class and someone had asked him, what do you think about the Gracies? And he goes, man, you need to watch out what those guys are doing. You need to understand what they're doing is very strong. He said, you should go and study it. And then he taught a Dirty Newaza class.
Wow.
But people just think, oh no, because he doesn't teach it all the time.
Yeah.
People going, yeah, but he must think it's no good. And then the other thing people think about is they go, why you shouldn't fight on the floor. So yeah, when you're on a medieval battlefield,
yeah,
the last thing you want to be is the turtle on the floor with someone spiking with a spear or a sword. So spookily to some people, things have changed since then. You've got MMA, which is probably the fastest growing martial art in the world currently. And those dudes will take you on the floor or you'll slip, but there's a high chance that you will end up on the floor. If you don't know how to get out of side control, mount, or triangles, or arm bars, or chokes, you will die there. Or you could potentially die. Everyone thinks because you do Gracie Jiu-Jitsu or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, the concept you would have in a street fight is to deliberately take someone on the floor. They don't ever think that you would use it to get out of situations. Or just have more strings to your bow which can only be more empowering than just having one way of doing something.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I find it extraordinary when the Grandmaster always tries to breed into us as students that we should have an open mind. We should study what's going on around us. We should take what we learn from him and adapt it to where we are in which country. So obviously in America, there should be a slant on gunplay and stuff like that and using weapons. Over here, we probably need to focus on knife stuff, as if defense is our thing. So that idea of this is what I'm teaching now, but guys, you're the instructors, take it to where you are and adapt it to what we do. And he says that the whole time, but people only want to hear what they want to hear, which is, I find again extraordinary.
Yeah, going back to that stuff. So back to the ninjutsu. If you take out the jiu-jitsu side of it,
yes,
the unarmed combat,
yes,
you do a lot of weapon stuff.
There is a fair amount of weapon stuff, but I'll be honest, I've done it. I've done a lot of it in the past, but right now for me, because we're in the UK, weapons is not a big thing. I know how to take swords or move in a way to take swords off people. Baseball bat is the same as a sword, more the way it arcs and stuff like that. I know how to move and close distance or get out of the way, depending on what I want to do and how my reactions are at the time. But it doesn't interest me as much as the unarmed. And I think right now, for me, people still think that they can use the fundamentals and the techniques in the way they're presented historically in today's society. They've missed that a lot of the techniques are based on armor, people being in armor.
Sure.
They haven't got
openings.
Yeah, they haven't got the mobility.
Yeah.
They haven't got the kicking. They haven't got, obviously, ground fighting is completely missing for the reasons I said earlier. So my interest is very much to try and make those techniques valid today.
Yeah.
It's sort of been building up in me for the last, I don't know, about 5-10 years. And it's becoming more and more of a focus on how to capture the locks and stuff standing up. I taught an MMA guy, I think, when I started on this, and he's going, man, that's kind of crazy how you can get this stuff there. And it doesn't occur to him, but it's very much a work in progress. And I'm probably in the Bujinkan, that's what I'm known for, is this guy that's doesn't talk about it, actually gets on the mat with the Muay Thai dudes, gets on the mat with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guys, and tries to figure stuff out.
Yeah.
It's slow and it's complicated at times, and sometimes you hit dead ends with stuff, and then someone like we talked about, Bob Breen or David Onuma, will go, look at this, and you go, that's the key. That was the key to that door there.
Yeah.
That I'm like trying to get through, and just give you a bit of inspiration. I think John Danaher talks about it. It only takes like one conversation with one person to sow this seed.
Yes.
That then you go, that's now. And why was I just thinking like this when I should be thinking in a much bigger way? Yeah.
What is obviously we know historically sort of what the point of ninjutsu was, but in a modern time, I want to know kind of both from the perspective as kind of the overall community, and then secondly, after you've answered that, I want to know from your own perspective, like what's the point, you know?
Okay. So I think like all martial arts, the point first is self-defense.
I think not for all martial arts.
Oh, really?
No, I think that.
Don't you think most people enter? You know, I know that there's a lot of talk about this. I don't know. Maybe again, I'm just looking at it from my own perspective. Do you think people go in and go, what I want to do is a sport here, but a martial sport?
Yeah, I think people do.
You?
Yeah, I think it's very sport.
That's interesting.
I think it's sport dependent. I think the people who go into something like Muay Thai and Judo and boxing, obviously there are people who go into that for they want to be able to protect themselves, but I think people who just want that are going to move.
See, I've always thought about it, and again, maybe it's like projecting my own feelings.
and that could be me the other way. I could be you know, I'm not someone who's interested in the self-defense
because what I do understand is, you know, I would always think that people go, I want to do a martial arts, so let's have a look at that one's close to me, so, and it's almost random. It could be Muay Thai, it could be Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, it could be karate, it could be judo, it could be whatever, and they go, that's convenient, I'll go there, and then they go, there's all this sport attached to it as well, and then they go off on that.
I think possibly. I think, you know what, there even could be, and I think there's definitely an aspect of you projecting your own feelings and me projecting my own feelings, and we're kind of different ends of the spectrum.
Because as an observation, so I have people that phone me up because I do two different arts.
Yes.
So I go, do you just do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu? And I go, I do separate them when I teach them, but I teach the whole class.
Ninjutsu classes and
but they go side by side with each other. So I do the first hour is the ninja stuff, and then the second hour is the Brazilian people. I never blend them.
And people stay for the 2 hours.
Well, that's what I want.
And some people do, some people don't, or most
everyone
people do.
does.
Oh, everyone does.
So then what happens?
So you teach a 2-hour class that's split into ninjutsu and then Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
So then what happens is people will then phone me up and go, I just want to do the ninja stuff, and you go, well, you know, you must try this one and see how you feel. So
if someone says that, I just want to do the ninja stuff, do you say come for the first hour and leave, or do you say
no?
come?
I say you've got to do the whole lot. And so what happens invariably is what the people think they wanted to do is not the thing they want to do. It's the opposite. So, and it almost is like a complete 180 degree turnaround, where the people that want to do the ninja stuff actually want to do the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and vice versa.
Yeah.
Which is bizarre. You know,
that
it's
is
quite
interesting.
Bizarre.
Yeah.
And that's hence why I kind of think that a lot of the time people just want to do a martial art, but they don't really know what they want to do.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. You know, I think even within something, I think like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu has the biggest split between the two.
Yes, yeah.
I think if you look at stuff like, you know, I sometimes categorize these as martial arts and fighting arts.
Yes, yeah.
So the fighting arts being the judo, the wrestling, the boxing, the Muay Thai.
Yeah.
And to varying degrees, you know, if you look right over, I would say like the wrestling is the most sports based.
Yes.
Then the judo. Then the boxing, or then the boxing, then the Thai boxing. You know?
Yes. Yeah.
And then obviously on the other side you have the super self-defense stuff, the traditional jiu-jitsu, the ninjutsu stuff, everything. Exactly. And Brazilian jiu-jitsu occupies really in the middle there.
Yes.
I think, and depending who you go to, and this is the important part.
Yeah.
You will never go to a boxing class that is teaching it purely as self-defense.
Yeah.
And you'll never go to a ninjutsu class that will be teaching it as sport.
Yeah.
Whereas in Brazilian jiu-jitsu, it can be very, very blurred, and it can be on either side of the spectrum, even within you know, one gym potentially. So, for example, guys that I've had on recently, like John Hegan, like Mark Walder, you know, John teaches exclusively Gracie Jiu-Jitsu stuff.
Which is kind of what I urge towards. And so that's what, in a way, why I was lucky to get inherit Roger, or
Sure.
I go to Roger because he's just the uber blue belt of classical Gracie Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah, but like John doesn't really teach any sport-based stuff, really.
Yeah.
Whereas if you came to learn from me personally, I don't have much interest in the self-defense stuff, just because I think that, and that's the nice thing about Jiu-Jitsu, is that the class is going to be somewhat of a representation of the instructor's own feeling.
If you
have someone who's really self-defense minded, then it's going to be more like that. Someone who's more sports minded is going to be like that. So
I'll probably say the truth of the matter is I'm probably a bit in the middle, because I've studied the Berimbolos, I've studied 50-50 to a degree.
But that's for your jiu-jitsu.
Yes.
So when you were doing,
whereas that's not really you wouldn't do deep half guard in.
That'd be a bad
movement.
But when you started doing ninjutsu, and obviously you did ninjutsu for a long time before you started BJJ.
Yes.
And I imagine there's no sport element of ninjutsu.
No, and that's one of the big problems is that there's no resistance. It's a lot of people falling down a lot of the time. That is starting to creep in more now in some schools around the world. People have realised now, but at times, you see people falling down. You go, "What are you doing? Why are you just falling over?" But this creates a really bad situation where whoever's demonstrating, be it the Grandmaster, one of his senior instructors, me, anyone, if someone's punching in such a crap way that they're virtually you blow and they fall over, it doesn't give you any ability to show a decent technique. And then so what you do is you go, and I personally don't do this, but you can see how it happens, where people just go and they just do stuff and they kind of just push the person, they fall over. And so it just
and it looks like bullshit.
Exactly. And that's some of the issues I've got. Is like the Grandmaster, all his senior students are really capable, but they're just being presented with nonsense as far as an attack is concerned, and that's what's turning it into bullshit. Because I think the people that are chosen to attack do it out of... So it's a difficult thing, because what you don't want to do when you're demonstrating technique, as you well know, is you don't want someone... I think Kit Dale did a great thing where it's hold by lapel, and it's like, well, I'll try and take it off. But you don't want that kind of dude where you're going, look, man, I'm trying to show a technique here. We're not sparring.
Sure.
So it's ended up going in Japan, I think, the opposite way, where you've got people that just want to fall over the whole time. It's like, no, give me some... It's like teaching white belts, where you say, okay, you're in garb, it doesn't mean you're a sack of potato. You just go, your whole spine just dissolves into jelly and you just fall over as soon as someone starts to push you a little bit. So you have to have a little bit of structure. And I think in Japan, I think it might be led about this sort of politeness that maybe you've got to make the guy look really good or something like that. But I don't think the Grandmaster wants that.
No,
I don't think so. Because I've tried to punch him, I'll punch him properly, and he does do stuff. But I think he needs people to do that so he can show good stuff rather than junk. So if someone punches you like junk, then only junk's going to come out of that.
Sure, yeah. So does the kind of original school of ninjutsu, is there the majority emphasis on self-defense, or is there a lot of stuff on all of the stuff around the...
Right, so the Bujinkan, which is like the collection of different techniques from the 9 schools, it's really all about safety, awareness, it's all the things.
So we're talking about earlier about the origin of Jiu-Jitsu and how that the self-defense or the fighting side is a small part of it. Is the other stuff still widely taught in the ninjutsu system?
So some of it was taught a lot more than it is now.
Okay.
Yeah. So when I was doing it, the
running, the crawling, the jumping.
So when I was doing it, we used to do a lot of that sort of stuff. But now it's become, there's still a bit of shuriken throwing and stuff like that. When I was learning it, we were doing much more, and there was much more talk about the other stuff. About awareness and stealth. And
is there a lot of philosophy in it as well?
Yeah, there's a hell of a lot. So I think you were talking about the point of it. So for me, one of the biggest points of it is that everyone gets obstructed with problems. So whether it's someone standing in your face going, fuck you, you're not getting past me until you give me your phone or whatever. Or you've got some block in business that you can't get something done. People get caught up in like, this is just a wall. So if you can't go through it, go fucking around it. And the only important thing is to get to A to B.
Yeah.
And, you know, they talked about the ninja lacking sort of morality and stuff like that because certain codes were dropped.
So they could get from A to B.
Yeah. But to me, it makes, you know, unless you're like really hurting someone, you know, that's all it's about, really, I think. You know, unless you're doing something that's really like morally, you know, killing people or you know, telling complete utter lies the whole time. You know, there's also you know, there's an element of what's called Jujitsu, which is called the interweaving of truth and falsehood. So you know, like all good lies, you put in a bit of truth and mix it in with a bit of falsehood.
Yeah.
And so I just talked an absolute load of crap and you've believed it all.
You nailed it.
Yeah,
you told me the greatest lesson about ninjutsu.
Yeah.
So is there a lot of like the mind stuff and manipulation?
Yes,
is that still,
you know, there's people
actively?
some people who you know, study NLP and stuff like this
as part of their ninjutsu?
Yes, yeah.
Is that,
but you know, so a lot of
the...
it's innate. I think a lot of it's innate, isn't it? You know,
yeah.
You know, I've always liked to get my own way, and so you know, I've become quite good at making people believe that it's a good idea that they do what I want.
Yeah,
not in a forceful way, but I sow the seed in. And
is that something that you've learned through ninjutsu?
No, that was
that?
Innate in me.
Yeah.
I know for you know, probably since being a kid, that you know, I always thought I had good ideas, so I want all my mates to do what I want to do.
But that isn't something that's part of the system.
Yeah,
so
no,
much.
it is very much so.
Okay.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah. But you know, at that time, when I started learning it, then more of that was discussed rather than actually formally taught on what. But you know, it's difficult. I think with a lot of these kind of esoteric things, it's again, like I said earlier. For individuals, you have to sow seeds because you can't really tell people what it's all really about.
Yeah.
They've got to discover it themselves, but they need guidance to discover itself, which then kind of leads me on to one of the flaws, I think, in some of the teaching, is where a lot of the time we were shown technique rather than taught it.
Yes.
Which makes you an excellent observer of stuff. And going, okay, that guy moved his left leg to here and his right hand over here and da-da-da-da. And so once you've got that skill set, then you can assimilate a lot of information from people's movement and stuff like that. But it's not, in my opinion, not a particularly efficient way to teach people's skill sets, which is completely the opposite to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, where you go, look, you've got to put your hand here, not behind his neck, but about just by his ear, and it's very precise where you get your grips to start off with, and then you do this movement like this.
Yeah, you know, this is something that I talk about a lot, the difference between showing and teaching someone, exactly like you said. I think even when you get very detailed with it, you know, there's a spectrum in everything. I'm sure there are some people in ninjutsu who are very good at teaching as well. But I think in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, it's a lot better, but I still think there are a lot of instructors who don't show it in particularly good detail. Yeah. Or even if you show something, you know, for me personally, what the definition of teaching is actually explaining why this is what you do.
Yes, exactly.
You know?
Exactly. And I think Renzo Gracie is like awesome at that. He's like, you know, he keeps it light, but he gets all the. I think ages ago I heard him talking about teaching technique, and he says that you have within a technique, you have certain points that you have to get to, one after the other. If you miss out one or you don't do one very well, that's when you're going to get reversed, or you know, something bad's going to happen. But you have to have these points, and I think that flows through for every martial art. You know, you have maybe Kung Fu, which has a lot of flowery, superfluous movement, but I think particularly in Jiu-Jitsu and also the Bujinkan stuff that I study, I always look at what are the key points. If you miss these out, it leaves openings.
100%.
Yeah.
Now, I want to go quickly back to something that you were mentioning when you were talking about the ninjutsu versus the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu stuff.
Yes.
You're talking about sparring.
Yes.
Well, you weren't talking about sparring, but I want to talk about sparring. You're talking about how there's not a lot of resistance. Yeah. Now, you went from... I imagine that there's no full contact sparring in ninjutsu.
No, because it's
a lot dangerous. Of it is
it will kill people.
It's the classic.
So people hide behind this idea, or some people hide behind this idea. Well, if we spar, I'll use all these techniques and I'll
You'll
maim you.
Yeah.
So for me, a lot of those techniques they talk about, like sticking your fingers in their eyes, clapping your hands around your ears, or even Kyusho, which is that nerve holds and stuff like that, are the icing on the cake. If you can't do fundamental technique like take an arm lock or a choke or anything like that, escape this position or do that, then all the rest of it's a waste of time.
Yeah.
But people, like, again, perhaps with laziness, you see these people, now I'm going to offend a load of people that study just Kyusho, for example, pressure points on their own. It's because they think that they don't need to learn the real structure of the art to get into the position to use those moves. I don't say they don't exist, but I don't think they're as valid as a lot of people think they are.
The pressure point
yes,
stuff.
Yeah. And
there's a lot of people out there.
Hooking,
there's a lot of people out here, they're doing just pressure point stuff.
Yes, exactly. The Kyusho Jitsu, it's called, yeah. And you've seen those terrible Dillman things where you've got to believe.
Oh, that's
okay. So what happens when the dude that's wants your money doesn't believe?
Well, they did that thing where he went. For those who don't know, it's George Dillman, right? He does,
and he's a credible karate. In his youth, he was a credible karate dude.
Wow.
And he just got swallowed in by probably the money.
Yeah.
And that it just looked funky.
Yeah, he does pressure point stuff, and then he does no touch knockouts as well.
Yeah.
And that shit's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
I imagine they don't have anything close to that in ninjutsu.
No.
Do they have the?
They have the pressure points, but
knockouts. The pressure point knockouts. Or?
There's certain things that you can do to phase the person, like hitting around the neck and stuff.
That shit's not nice.
Yeah, and you can augment it by hitting wrists and setting stuff up. But again, I look at it. So the Grandmaster also talks about the fact that these things aren't 100% reliable.
Yeah.
So what we know is proper technique is 100% reliable. Like joints don't bend the wrong way.
Yeah.
But if you occlude someone's carotid artery, they are going to go to sleep. It doesn't matter how big or whatever, whether you're double jointed in whatever, these things will happen. I've noticed with double jointed people that they don't feel pain in the pressure points as much. So, if you're relying on that, trying to get some pressure point grip on someone's arm or something, he's just going to whack you with the other hand. And so for me, all that stuff is just the icing on the cake. It's okay if you've got good technique and you've got a dominant position like the mount or something like that, and the guy's going ape shit, then maybe you can look at thumbing him in the throat or something like that. I don't know.
Might calm him down.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
So there's no sparring in ninjutsu because of the technique. Now, so let's kind of merge this in with you starting Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Yes.
So we'll put that on the back burner just for 1 second. And why did you start Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu? Like, where did that first introduction?
Well, like everyone, 93.
You watched UFC 1?
Yeah, and it's like
so there was no ninjas being represented in the.
There was. If you remember, there was that guy. God, what was he? He was a police officer.
Oh, really?
I totally forget his name, but he was a guy called Robert Bussey's student.
Okay,
comes out of quite a famous camp called Warrior International, I think it is, if my memory serves me correct. But this guy, Robert Bussey, had been a student of the same Grandmaster as mine for about 2 or 3 years. I think he was a Taekwondo dude that then got into it, and I think he did study legitimately. But then, like some people, they think they know everything, and they go off and they go, "Okay, thanks, mate," and they go off and create their own thing. But anyway, this guy, I've freaking forgotten his name, but he came in as an alternate, and I think he won it. Number 2 or something like that, or number 3, I can't remember.
Hoist didn't win.
So I think it might have been the one where he got taken out by Chemo.
I think it was number 3.
Yeah.
I think it was number 3, and I think he won 1, 2, 4.
I'm trying to think. Yeah. But yes, so watching Hoist going in the white gi, and you're going, okay, this guy's going to get smashed.
So like, what? Obviously, I wasn't. I was 2 years old when UFC 1 came out.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, I wasn't able to watch it. I wasn't allowed to stay up that late.
Slack.
But what was it's always interesting to know. It was such a historic event.
Oh yeah.
For sport now.
I bill it as the second most important thing in martial arts that could has ever happened.
After what?
Bruce Lee.
Okay.
Bruce Lee introduced the whole world to martial arts, didn't
Okay.
he? If we're honest, I think.
But, even Bruce Lee, there was no one, there was no...
Enter the Dragon, what are you talking about?
Fair enough. Okay, yeah. So it was.
No, he had, in his...
He had a huge influence.
Yeah. That's why everyone immediately wanted to do karate, whatever they could lay their hands on.
Yeah. But UFC was so big, but I guess you didn't know at the time how big it was going to be in the future, but it was still a massive event.
Yes, yeah,
it was the first time.
Yeah.
So it's always interesting to know, obviously, the guys that were doing judo, they were looking at it from different eyes.
Yeah, so I had an insight into a few of those arts by that time. So I'd done judo.
So what was sort of the vibe around the ninjutsu school when this thing was about to come out?
What the hell's this guy? What the hell's this dude doing? And a lot of the students were like fascinated and trying to pick apart
after they watched UFC one. Yeah.
Pick apart what he was doing. Some of the smart guys were immediately on it.
Yeah,
and I was fascinated. I went out to Los Angeles. I was with a girlfriend, but I didn't have time to train. But I thought I've got to and I just called in to the Gracie Academy just to see what was going on there. And I had a quick look around, but I didn't have time. The girlfriend's going, "Oh, you've got to leave." But then I think I went back now. I'm trying to remember the timeline now, but it must have been 98, 99, and it was when Royce wasn't around. A guy called Kaiki was teaching there, and Horion were teaching there at the time. And I think I did 2 weeks there with them.
That was your first experience?
Yeah, proper class.
How was that?
Humbling, I think. And I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to remember the timeline because that doesn't feel. Because I think the first time, which then it doesn't make sense. I'm trying to think when I went out there. This is a bit. I'm a bit confused because I remember Royce choking me in like 45 seconds.
Yeah.
And I was trying to get a wrist lock. He's got behind me and he got his arm underneath my armpit. I pulled it free and I was trying to do this wrist lock here where you lock up the whole arm.
Sure.
And I was finding he's going like clink around my neck.
Yeah.
And I, and it's like, man, I've done judo. How the hell has he got me so quickly?
Yeah.
This is like a disgrace. And then I was like fired up.
So you thought that even after watching him smash through 4 people at UFC 1?
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Watch this guy like this guy's
eternally optimistic.
He's the greatest martial artist in the world right now. I was like, how the fuck is he beating me? I know what I'm doing.
So I had no expectation that he wouldn't beat me, but I was disappointed. At 45 seconds, I was like pretty disappointed.
He probably wasn't going that hard either.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, that must have been such an eye-opening experience for you when you first.
But like I talked about earlier, that fired me up to go, man, I don't know much about this stuff. As a martial artist, I need to be rounded, not be really good at certain parts of it, and then just pretend Brazilians don't exist, and I will never have a fight with a Brazilian or anything like that ever. It's weird because I get black belts that come into my class, and they get roughed up or choked out or caught, tapped by my junior students. And
so
stuff.
Black belts in
Bujinkan. And, some of them go, oh, and they go, that's weird shit. Let's pretend that doesn't exist and go off and hide. Others go, I need to know that. But mostly the black belts that come in run off and hide and pretend it doesn't exist, and they don't really need to know it because they justify it to themselves that, well, you don't want to fight on the ground. Yeah, no one's arguing that point. You do not want to fight on the ground on the street.
But what happens if you
what happens if you get dragged on the ground and someone's triangling the crap out of you?
Yeah.
What do you do then? You don't go, oh God, I wish I would have learned that lesson.
Yeah.
It's a bit late then.
So you did a couple of weeks out in Torrance.
Torrance, yeah.
And then you came back to the UK.
So to add to that, I had a really expensive private with Horion.
Oh, really?
And, people...
Even back in the day, it was a lot of money.
Yeah. People have mixed views about Horion.
Yes.
But man, I have never met a better teacher in my life.
Really?
If you teach anything, go and do a private with that dude.
Okay.
Like, he is stunningly good at transferring information.
Yeah.
All the little kind of body language stuff, that using the flick of the fingers and, pay attention to this. Everything is like, I've never met a better teacher in any subject matter. He's like a special person as far as conveying information is concerned, in my opinion.
Yeah. So you did a pro with him, and then you headed back to the UK.
Yes, yeah. And then I'm trying to think the timeline, because I'm a bit confused about when that actually happened. Because I think what happened then is I contacted Mark Walder, I think.
So it was
and he came and did a class, which I think he was a bit. I picked him up from the station and I brought him to where I trained.
So you were already teaching the ninjutsu.
Yes, yeah. So then he seemed really nervous because I think, you know, in those days there's all that Gracie challenge going on. He's going, fuck, what do I do?
This is a setup.
What have I, what have I agreed to here?
You're
There's
just
going to be a whole load of guys
20 guys in masks.
knives.
Are going to run out.
Knives and swords and stuff. And yeah. So he came and did that. And, you know, it was good. You know, he was very, you know, I think he'd just come back from
He probably just got his blue belt.
Yes, that's right. You know, and he, you know, it was good, and it got me started. And did some confused. So I part of me thinks that's what happened, and then Royce came, or did it happen? Royce came first, and then yeah. Anyway, so then Royce came in the. I think we decided, John Hegan and I decided that it was about 2001.
So were you training jiu-jitsu constantly, like regularly?
I don't think I was. I think I was doing a bit with Mark. I think
he was coming to your gym regularly?
No, I was going because he had a place in Canning Town. So John Hegan has got a much better memory for this stuff than I have. But he said he wasn't quite sure either. So I've got no chance on that count. I was driving all the way across London to Canning Town.
Yeah.
And then Royce came. He did his seminar and 2-day seminar in Dagenham over a weekend. But weirdly, over the first morning, he'd already invited me to go and travel around Japan with him.
Really?
Yeah.
You must have left a good impression.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. You know, I just chatted to him very briefly, and he says, "Why don't you come and help me teach the Japanese?"
Wow. Is that because you spent time in Japan?
Possibly.
Do you
told
speak
him
Japanese?
no, I don't at all. I can muddle through just about, but I can't speak it.
He thought, who's better to dive into Japan than a ninja?
So there was another guy who was also, I think he just left training in the Bujinkan, who was also acting as his Japanese manager at the time, and they had a massive falling out later on, which we'll talk about later down the line.
Yeah.
But I went out to Japan with him. We're traveling all around the place. We went to places like we started off in Tokyo, Osaka, Hiroshima, and Kyoto.
Wow.
And we were going from one hotel room to the other, and you know, at times he'd say, "Simon, why don't you just take the bed? I'm going to sleep on the floor tonight." And I go,
Royce.
Yeah. And I'd say, "Royce, you've been working all day. You know, I know I've been helping you, but you don't need." And he goes, "No, it's all right." And he's like, super nice guy.
Wow.
And one time,
you know, this is in the early 2000s.
2001.
He's a superstar at this point.
Yeah, massive. Everyone's coming up to him in Japan. Can you sign this?
Wow.
You know, no, he's like a superstar. Yeah, like a superstar. So then we go. So it was just after 9/11. So we then end up in this Marine base in Hiroshima, and so he goes, "All right, let's hit the gym." And then we hit the gym, and he's going, "Ahmed, can you come over here and spot the weights for me to me?" And then everyone's looking around and going, "What the fuck's this dude doing here?" So that was his his funny joke for that trip wherever we went, or if there were any other sort of serious Americans around, he'd refer to me as Ahmed. So we went there. We went to Kyoto as well, which was also very stunning. There's some amazing temples and gardens there in Kyoto, and we spent a fair time going around that. And that was like, if you go there, you should try and visit there, because
I'm going to Japan
serenity
next month.
Yeah, the serenity, man, is like, I can't explain it. It's like you walk in there and you go,
yeah,
everything's.
I've heard Kyoto. I'm going to try and get out there.
And there's these cool. You've probably seen them. These cool boulders that are put in like this gravel, and they're raked round in circles and lines and stuff like that. And the idea, I think, you can move all around it, but the only way you can see the whole picture is from above, from enlightenment. It's the signification, I think, of that. So, you know, it's an amazingly interesting place.
Yeah. So you spent time in Japan with Royce.
Yeah.
Did you get to go to any of his? He was still competing at the time.
Yeah. So then he invited me to come to the Yoshida fight, where, you know, Ezekiel, allegedly Ezekiel'd.
Yeah.
You know, some people say, "Oh no, he definitely was asleep." He's like, "I don't think so.
Yeah.
I was there."
Yeah.
I don't think he slept, because he jumped up immediately. I don't think when you sleep, there's a moment.
You're out. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're very cloudy for a couple of seconds afterwards.
Yeah, even if it's just like a few seconds. But he's like, what, straight away.
Well, the Japanese wanted him to lose at that point.
So what I noticed, because I did a few of those fights with him, and I was there for all the preparation as well. So I met quite interesting people there. I met the Minotauros. I'm trying to remember all the people that I met through Royce, of course. His brothers, and then Helio. There's like a load of people that I met. Henzo was out there, I think. That was, I think, Henzo. No, maybe Henzo was out there. He was definitely out there for the Gracie there was a Gracie challenge in Pride that went on where I think Henzo was fighting Carlos Newton, I think, or someone like that. Yeah. Which is like a escape.
Yes.
Yeah, it was like less than escaping stuff. Yeah, that was interesting times. I've forgotten where we were going there.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, so at the Pride fight, then there's another thing where we went to a strip bar, strangely, with Royce. We went to a strip bar
afterwards.
In Roppongi. Yeah.
Okay.
And Steven Seagal was there.
No way.
And he's with his like about his mind or whatever. And there's this weird tension in the room where
between Royce and Steven Seagal.
Yeah. So Royce was going, I want to go and say hi and stuff. And you could see Steven Seagal was like really serious and didn't kind of. You got the feeling that he kind of didn't really want to engage.
Yeah.
And the feeling I got was like you've got the real dude and you've got the film dude. And
this is just the greatest image of like.
But it was, but eventually...
I'm picturing right now, Royce Gracie on one side.
Yeah, no, it was a bit like
Steven Seagal on the other, like eyeing each other out.
No, it was a bit like that.
And then like strippers in between.
Yeah, no, it was a bit like that. It was very weird. There was definitely this weird tension.
Yeah.
And Royce was not part of it. He was going, I'd like to go and say hi to the dude.
Yeah.
But he was Seagal was definitely tense about something.
Yeah. You can imagine he's always tense about something.
Yeah.
Have you had any experience with him apart from that?
Yeah, I did meet him before. It might have been in London, actually, at a nightclub in London, I think. I can't remember. That was with Royce.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because Royce used to come and
stand. It sounds like Steven Seagal is following Royce.
Yeah, exactly, stalking him. Now, Eric Clapton was the guy that was really interested in seeing Royce.
Oh, really?
Yeah, who came to... He came to... I think Mark Walder mentioned it in his podcast, that they came over to Chelsea to my where I teach.
Yeah.
And Royce...
Eric Clapton came over there?
Yes, yeah, he was one of the people in the crowd, and Guy Ritchie was there. I remember Guy Ritchie saying, he said, I can't come out for dinner, I've got to get home to the missus.
Yeah,
which was quite funny. Yeah, exactly. It was quite amusing. But then, no, we went to, as Mark said, we went to Eric Clapton took us to this fish and chip shop, this little fish and chip shop, and it had a little room at the back. And we just ate fish and chips there. But he was remarkably open about his life and stuff, and the hideous accident of his son falling off the balcony, and how he drank too much and regretted like not, he said one of the things he said it got so bad that when he was looking after the child or something, he'd be wishing the child go to bed so that he could get on the booze and stuff. And he said, and for him to change that was so good. And I thought, and he was a very, very generous person as far as opening up, as about some things that must have been incredibly painful to talk about.
I imagine people get like that when they have someone that they admire,
that they but weirdly, he was talking to me. I think Royce was talking to someone else. Yeah.
Wow. So what was he just into UFC? Or?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's what Royce said, and he respected Royce, because of the UFC.
Yeah.
And I think Eric Clapton lived quite close in Chelsea somewhere, so it became this easy, achievable thing for him to pop down. I think it was the first time he met Royce. I think they'd exchanged emails or messages together, but it was the first time they'd met, and it was at this weird training in the sort of basement of a little sports centre that's now a block of flats, I think.
Where isn't a block of flats?
In World's End, I think, in Fulham.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it sounds like chilling out with Royce during the early 2000s was. It was an interesting...
I used to take him on the back of my motorbike, and I said, man, you are going to tap now. I know I can't make you tap anywhere else.
Did he?
No, he didn't, because he's mad. He's like nothing. He won't back down from anything. One time, I think we were driving back from Cambridge in my car, And I said, man, I'm feeling tired. Do you want to drive for a bit? And it's like, I'm the one like gripping the seats and stuff as he's like racing everyone on the road.
You've seen the guys drive in Brazil, haven't you?
No, I haven't. I've never been to Brazil, actually.
Have you not been to
Brazil?
Brazil?
No, I've not been. No, it's one of the places, well, South America's one of the places I've not been to yet. Wow. But that was like, and I think, man, he's going to crash my car.
I would not let anyone with the name Gracie drive my car.
Yeah, so, there were some funny times. There were some really funny times. I'm trying to think what else we used to get up to. Like, there's all kinds of stuff. When he used to go and teach you something, said, "Get me out of here! Come on, make up some story. We've got to go and get a hotel room somewhere else. We can't hang out with these dudes any longer." Yeah. We're not talking about you, John Hegan, either.
So kind of going back, talking to you about you doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu a bit more.
Yes.
Obviously at some point you actually started, I know you're training with Mauricio.
Yes.
And then training at Rogers.
Yeah. So what happened then is I'm trying to remember again the order of things. So Royce was coming once or twice a year. I was training with Mark. And I was thinking, man, Mark was getting harder and harder to get to traffic-wise and stuff like that. And then Royce was coming into the town and he goes, "Look, Simon, I haven't got time to teach you." I said, "Come and hang out with me in a nightclub." And I'm thinking, I want to continue my training, but I can't train like this. Yeah. I need someone that needs, I can spend some time that will fix stuff for me. So then I went to see Mauricio, I think, in the third space. Do you know about that gym in Piccadilly? Yeah. So I think that was one of my first classes with Mauricio down there. And
what was that like?
It's a tiny spot, but I think there's about 6 or 7 people. I think John Donnelly was there. Yeah. I think Jude was there, actually, Jude Samuel. Trying to remember. I think there's a tall South African guy that was there, and I totally forget his name, that's still doing stuff. Then that moved to High Street Kensington. Well, I trained a lot there with Mauricio.
Yeah.
And I think Royce had just given me my purple belt about that time. Yeah. In retrospect, I think it was well ahead of what I deserved, to be honest. I don't know why he gave it to me, to be honest. And that's probably why I spent 5 years as a purple belt. And then I think it was a time when Mauricio was going backwards and forwards to Brazil. Yeah. And he got a guy in called Sal Rangel, who was a funny guy. He was a tiny guy. I must have outweighed him by God knows how many kilos. But he used to torment me. Really? Yeah, he used to get me in arm bars and say, "Tell me you're a little baby now," and stuff like this, and make me say shit without letting me out, and like flip on these arm bars. And you go, "Man, how have you caught me? You got me in again and again and again and again." I think he just won a world championship or something. He was a brown belt world champion. Yeah, and I was like a very new purple belt, but probably really a okay blue belt. And so he was just like having his way with me, whichever way he wanted. And then he left, and I think Roger came for a bit. Yeah. And I think Roger was a brown belt, I think, at that point. Yeah, I always kind of when people tell me that they saw Roger before he was Roger Gracie. Yeah. What was the impression that you got? Did you realise that he was going to be hot shit? I think the thing is that, so when you get certain grips and you get in a certain position, you've got your move. Yeah, it's going to work. You could just go, I'm here. I know exactly what you're saying now, because this is when people ask me about rolling with Roger, this is exactly the definition that it's actually really funny to listen to you say that. So I think he's fucked now. Yeah, I've got to where I've got to. It's taken me a long time to get there, and it's been a massive struggle. I probably burnt myself completely out, but I've got the feeling now I've got him and then it doesn't work. I know exactly what you mean. 100%. Nothing works. There's the difference between rolling between someone like Borralio and Roger, who I haven't done a load of training, but I've rolled with. They're the two best guys that I've trained with, because they're two of the best guys in the world. And with Borralio, you just don't get into the position that you want to, ever. But with Roger, I'll get into a position that I want. He doesn't care. He can let you go wherever you want. This is whenever I get someone into this position, they're over. Fucked. It's over. Yeah. And then I'll do something and expect the outcome
and it isn't the outcome
work.
that I expected, and he's in mount and choking me.
Yeah,
so I know exactly what you.
Yeah, so that's the feeling I got with Roger. Is interesting,
even as a brown belt.
Yeah. So I went to a seminar. Who's the guy that recently had the guy that had his foot wound off at the end of
Honore Bahal.
Yeah. So I went to his seminar in London Bridge, and I said, "Look, man." He said, "Does anyone have any questions?" I go, "Yeah, I've got a question." I said, "When you do this move," I said, "I've tried this against Roger," and he says it doesn't freaking work. He said, "Nothing works." He says, "Don't worry about it. Nothing works against that dude."
That's a silly question, really.
Yeah.
So now you've been, going back to the ninjutsu stuff. The contrast between the two.
Yeah.
You did so many years of doing no sparring.
Yes.
And obviously you had done stuff before because you had done the judo and stuff like that. But going through many years of non-sparring and then doing so much sparring in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, it really built around Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. What was the contrast of those two things like?
Well, I've always enjoyed the physicality, so it's like coming back to what I really enjoyed.
Yeah,
and also what it did is it really highlighted an area that's really missing, in my opinion. Yes, a weakness in the Bujinkan stuff. Is because there's so many parts of when you spar. It's not only the obvious bit where you have to work on someone that's trying to kill you, but your own body's limitation, your physical fitness, the strength of your joints, whether you're ligamentally you're strong enough.
Yeah.
So obviously when you first start doing it, it feels like someone's run you over by like with a bus or something. Like you wake up the next morning and go, "Man, who's sneaked that fucking steamroller into my bedroom and run me over all night?" And you can hardly move. But obviously after you continue training, then you go, "It doesn't, I don't feel it really anymore."
Yeah.
So that was the fallacy that I really realised, is not only are you not able to really work out how to do technique on someone that's properly resisting and trying to do shit to you, but also your body's just not prepared for like a proper encounter. So it's a dual fold kind of experience or epiphany, if you like, where you go, okay, there's more lacking than you think there is from not doing
not just from a technical thing, but actually from the
physiological physiological adaptation. And that's, I think, a part that a lot of people that do study the Bujinkan just think, "Oh, well, I am physically okay to do it," but really, are you? Have you ever actually even had a judo match with someone or done a bit of stand-up randori? Okay, the ground side is very specialized, but okay, just do some randori. It's physically demanding.
Yes.
Cardiovascularly, you have to be in good shape. And as I say, like your joints have to be robust enough not to just get ripped and torn a bit. And I think that's a big piece of what people don't understand about fighting.
That's a huge part of it.
Yeah.
And I think the people who do self-defense techniques and don't do any full 100% sparring.
Yeah.
I genuinely believe that the physicality that you develop, those physiological changes and adaptations to controlling someone and escaping stuff, holding people down, choking people, those physiological adaptations, I believe, add up to more than the technical, than the purely technical knowledge that you get. I think I think if you get someone who
that was my thoughts on it, is like, let alone, as you say, the technical aspect of it. It's like their body just won't cope with the combat.
No,
it's too soft.
And the reality is, if you get the greatest. If you put Roger Gracie's brain inside of a 7-year-old's child, I'll beat the shit out of it.
Just crush them up and put them in the bin.
So there's a big there's a huge limit to knowledge and ability and against the physicality. So,
and this is a big piece that people are missing. They just think, but a fight should be over in like seconds. It's like, well, what if it's not? And a lot of these dudes align themselves, well, it's worked for me. I've been able to do these techniques, and they pulled them off. What against a drunk, unskilled person? Or someone that's got loads of drugs in them, that's barely compos mentis, has almost fallen over on their own, and you made stuff work. I have no doubt. I have no doubt that probably against someone that's totally unskilled, yes, you can make stuff work. But I don't study for 30 years to go, oh, let's sharpen my skills against someone that doesn't know anything.
Yeah.
I want to go, okay, who's pretty good? How can I survive? First of all, can I survive against these people? And then do I have a chance to impose what I want to do?
Yeah. This is something that I wanted to ask. So this goes back to a question I asked a while ago before we got into jiu-jitsu stuff about kind of why you got into martial arts and the ninjutsu stuff, and you kind of answered it already, which is it was self-defense orientated.
Yes, yeah.
So that was
it's fighting, like, but in
you wanted to be able to defend yourself.
Yeah, I was bullied a bit at school, and then obviously once I started doing judo, that kind of went away.
Yeah.
But then growing up, I grew up on a southeast coastal town. And, every time you went out, someone's always trying to have those people haven't had a good night out unless they'd had a scrap or something.
Sure.
And so that was always, as a sort of older teenager, was kind of always in my mind of like, I don't want people telling me what to do, ever having where I go, okay, take my wallet, take my, I'd never ever really wanted, if I felt something about something, I wanted to be able to go, no, actually, you need to listen to me.
Yeah.
And have the confidence to do that. But, then that spins off into other stuff about, we touched on it briefly about, this getting into the flow zone. One of the biggest anxiety, so I don't think you can get into the flow zone if you have any kind of anxiety or any stress. So if you're stressing out about something else in your conscious mind, it's going to block your subconscious genius coming through. And people talk about whether you're channeling it from a higher source, or I believe it's actually in you.
Yeah.
I think that the genius is in you, but you just got to let it out. If you've got any anxiety, it's going to mostly block you from getting into that zone and letting all that genius and ability come out. If one of the things you don't have to worry about is someone imposing their thoughts or desires on you, then you're free of a lot of stuff in your life. So it definitely, I think, moves you to a closer spot where you can more often than not get into the flow zone and this goes for whether you're using it for work, you're using it for martial arts, you're using it for tennis, whatever.
So did you feel like being a competent martial artist could give you the confidence to not have to worry about anyone?
Yeah, definitely. Well, no, so never find nightly. You don't go, oh, I'm Superman now.
Yeah,
no one can touch me.
Yeah.
But you do. I think it's difficult not to say that it removes a big barrier, because you look at.
I think it does.
Yeah,
100%.
And I think a lot of people do walk around this earth going.
I think they do.
If there's a type of confrontation going across on the other street, they're going.
I think they do.
Fuck. What do we happen here? And it's I think it's a lot more so, and then you see it manifest itself in these things where there's some old woman or a pregnant woman's being abused or attacked on the tube station. Everyone lifts up their newspapers and pretends it's not happening and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and they're too fearful. Everyone's too fearful of getting into that situation. Not saying that you should always get yourself into situations where you're challenging people, but
have the confidence to walk around with your head held high.
Yes, exactly.
I think that's a massive part of it, and I definitely know that obviously, when you're a skinny teenager and you're walking around, you're always a little bit fearful of what's going on around you, and it's nice to have the ability to walk down the street and actually, like, if someone fucks with me, I'm gonna.
I have a reasonable idea.
Yeah.
I don't think you can ever guarantee it, but you have more than a reasonable idea.
Yeah, absolutely.
How it's going to end.
Doesn't make my day. But so have you ever found yourself in a situation when you've had to use?
Oh God, when I was younger, it's like virtually every night you went out, there was some guy.
When you had already done the ninjutsu stuff.
Not the ninjutsu so much. It was when I was doing the kung fu stuff that I used to get it. I grew up in a place called Rye, and between Rye and Hastings, and it's like all these southeast or coastal towns. I think there's all it's like, as I said, people haven't had a good night unless they have had a puncher, and so like all the time there was like people were troublesome. A lot of the time you could do it, as soon as you kicked someone, they'd go, "Whoa, let's not. We don't want to get him," and it would go away mostly.
Yeah.
but it's. Then there's all this stuff about the adrenaline and how you manage adrenaline and stuff like that. And I think that taught me a lot then about staying calm, using, and then you see more in combatives kind of martial arts training about how you channel adrenaline and stuff. And weirdly, I think I'd already figured that out from those kind of confrontations. And I also ski at a very high level, so sometimes,
oh really?
Yeah, some people take me to these things where you look over and you go,
you shit it, yeah.
No one's you get on there, you're going to fall to the bottom, or if you fall here, you're going to go over rocks or a cliff and you'll die. Damn. And so you've got to get your turns in and then move across and get out off that zone and get down further down. And the way I manage it is, and I think getting into this flow zone is the way I do it, is if I overthink it, it becomes a mess. So what I tend to do in these dangerous situations is I just go. I start moving, and I let my body figure it. And I've got to a stage where I kind of trust my body, or whether it's my body or my mind, that physically it will kind of figure itself out in these uber dangerous situations. So I've been heli-skiing in Alaska, which is where they shoot all that extreme stuff.
Yeah,
and they're dropping you off.
Heli-skiing is jumping out of a helicopter.
Well, they land on a ridge or something like that on the top of a mountain,
and you jump out and ski down.
Yeah. And and sometimes in France as well. I spent a lot. It's one of my other passions is like extreme skiing.
Do you still do that now?
Bits and pieces. Like I'm going out in April, but whether the snow's going to be good enough, I don't know. But I've got 2 small children, so that's kind of slowed.
Did they go skiing with you?
Yeah, but it slowed me down now on the risks that I want to take. Because literally some places, if you fall at the top, you'll go over a cliff further down. So, and it'll be so steep that you probably won't stop. So it focuses the mind. But I think that's some of the stuff that's needed for you to get into the flow zone, because if you start to think about stuff, then
that's when your
conscious mind starts to come fore, and then you can't do the genius that's inside you.
Yeah. That's interesting. You must be a bit of an adrenaline junkie then.
A bit, yeah. But I have to say, as I'm getting older now, I'm more cautious.
Yeah.
It's taken me 56 years to become more cautious. But, when I was in my 40s, I was still doing stuff like that.
Pretty extreme.
Yeah.
Damn, fair enough.
Yeah.
What else haven't we spoken about? I got some sheets here. You said on here, toured with INXS.
Yeah. So I think this all links back to this idea of trying to pursue excellence, because I think whatever you do, if you do it at a high level, it's the same stuff. So I kept on bumping it. Well, a girlfriend at the time's husband used to manage INXS over here. So I bumped. He introduced me to the band, and I think they were playing in Brixton, I think in '94 something. And subsequently, I've talked to them about this, and they looked at the guest list and they go, "How come Simon Yeo's got like 20 people?" So I invited all my clients at the time for my grown up job, to come to this to the Brixton, I think, warm up show that they were doing at the time. So I bumped into them around that time, and I think a friend of mine was getting. So I saw the guys, particularly the drummer, actually. So I saw them in the UK, and then I was in Hong Kong at a friend's birthday, wedding, and we went up to his room and we're partying away, and then we get a call from one of his friends. He says, "I'm with a drummer from INXS. Can I come up?" And they go up, they come up, and I go, "Man, what are you doing here?" And he goes, "What are you doing here?" And we spent the whole evening talking, and got really like one of those things where you just gel. But I think part of it is it's the same thing, because maybe I've studied a lot of this martial arts stuff, and it gives you that you have similarities of how you've got to certain places. It's hard to explain. Anyway, in '97 he came back here for the album called Elegantly Wasted, and he was going for a miserable start of a miserable divorce, but I was basically his sounding block. He would stay up late drinking, and he'd go, "Man, I've just had this message from my wife at that time. What's going on?" And I would try and help him see reason and kind of moderate it a bit, make him see some balance. He's a pretty cool guy as it is, so he didn't really need much of my help. But I think the phase that he was going through, I think he needed someone to kind of help him a little bit.
Yeah.
And then just before Michael Hutchence died, I think he said, Lion, look, I'm having a bummer of a time in America. Can you come and do the East Coast with me? So I think the way I've been told subsequently, I was the only person apart from the girls that was allowed to travel on the bus for like more than a very short one leg or anything like. So I think we started off in Atlanta. We flew to the bottom of Florida and went all the way up through the Carolinas through Washington up into New York. 2 weeks.
That's so random, isn't it?
Yeah. And it is. Just so you know, it is exactly what you think it is.
Yeah.
The girls, the partying, all of it is.
How long were you with them for?
2 weeks.
Wow, a good.
And then I went to Japan straight after, training with the Grandmaster, and I got the phone call that Michael Hutchence had died.
Wow. Just afterwards?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, 97. Which again, so this is kind of personal, but I'll put it out there anyway. So I was there I felt to help John, my one of my best friends. He was going through this thing with his wife, and it was all getting horrible, and he didn't know what to make of it. He's on tour, so he's like geographically removed from the situation. But in the background, well, not really in the background, but kind of right there, I could see Michael Hutchence unwinding.
Yeah.
And things weren't going well. I'm reasonably good when I can see people having time asking questions where they start to become introspective a bit about what might be the thing that's troubling them, also what maybe they could do to help themselves. I've always felt that I'm reasonably good at that, and I guess that's why John was one person as invited me to do that with him.
Yeah.
But I felt at that time that I wasn't in a position to do that. I was there to kind of help the drummer, and I really regret. As soon as I heard that he died, I thought, "Fuck!" I spectated on that. I watched that guy fucking unravel.
Yeah.
I was curious why none of the other band members took him in hand or whatever, but I think they were too close to the flame retrospectively, and there wasn't much they could do. But I regret to this day not even really saying much. He was a very nice guy and the most charismatic person I've ever met.
Wow.
Like, you walk into a room and go, "Fuck, who the fuck is that dude?"
Yeah.
I've met Jagger, I've met quite a few, I've seen Bono around, I've seen quite a few of these guys, and he by far was the most charismatic person I've ever seen or met. Anyway, so the lesson from that is, if you see anyone in trouble, never spectate.
Sure.
It's the big lesson I've learned. So now, if they don't want to hear it, I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you, I think this is fucked. You need to perhaps think about this or do that. If they choose to take that information, that's up to them. But it's now, we'll never watch someone unravel in front of me.
Yeah, no, fair enough.
Yeah.
Man,
Yeah, sorry, let's bring that back up again.
How did you meet so many cool people?
I don't know, because Bear Grylls came to a class once, and I thought, God, who's this dude called Bear? That's a sort of
weird
name, yeah. And so anyway, he disappeared, and I go, okay, he probably didn't like what I was doing.
Yeah.
And anyway, he phoned me up about a few months later and said, "Look, can you teach me privately?" And so I taught him 2 years just before he got uber successful.
Yeah.
So he has a boat in Battersea, which we used to just train on the deck.
So he used to live on a boat?
Yeah, so I used to teach him. Yeah, so I used to teach him on a barge. So I used to teach him a bit of. He was mainly interested in the Bujinkan, but I couldn't help offload a load of Jujitsu on him. Yeah. So we used to do that for about 2 years, I think it was, in the end.
How long ago was that?
God, I'm trying to think now. That's a good point. It was just before he got uber famous.
So is he too busy now to be doing all that
stuff?
Yeah.
So once he started getting uber famous, he phoned me up. He says, "So I'm in a right mess." He says, "I've got to do this fight sequence in." He said, "I've managed to get it moved to Battersea now. And can you come and help me?" And I go, "Yeah, of course I will." So I went down there, and he was like,
"What was it for?"
It was for Dinosaurs.
Okay.
I think it's sort of what's it called? The smartest man in the world or something. I can't remember. There's some. Yeah. So it was for that. and he had some ideas. I go, man, you need to make it look like this. And anyway, it ended up a little bit too complicated. So the actors that were supposed to do it couldn't take the falls. So I ended up being in the commercial myself because I was the only person that could roll out of stuff.
As a stuntman?
Yeah.
Wow.
So he did that. And then I said to him at the time, I said, man, you've got some really cool dudes working around you, because I've been in that film business environment. There's a lot of backstabbing and people like trying to climb up the ladder, pushing people down, and being
the film industry's
mean,
like
really mean people. And I said, everyone here seems really, really cool. And he says, well, I only want to work with the people. And he then went on to elaborate. He said they called me up and they said, can you do this thing? He said, yeah, I can. He said, and they said, right, it's going to be this crew, and we're going to do it in New York, I think it was, from memory, in Central Park.
Yeah.
And he said, it doesn't work for me. I've got to be at home on that day, blah, blah, blah. And they go, okay, it's off then. And 2 days later, they found out, I go, okay, we can do it in London, but you have to use this team. And he goes, I can't do that. I need my guys. I've got to work with my guys. And I go, right, it's off then. And then another 2 days later, they go, okay, you've got the venue, you've got your guys, and that's why he insists on working with his guys.
He
doesn't have idiots.
There,
he has no idiots around him.
Yeah,
I think from what I can see,
that's
and he's very loyal as well.
Yeah.
Like he got me into like teaching at Eton and stuff because he used to go to Eton, so he hooked me up with some guy. I asked. He just said, "Do you want to go and teach at Eton?" I go, "Maybe. Let's go and see." And he goes, "Okay."
So what other have you done a lot of stunt work or choreography?
I went
stuff?
down weirdly. I went down for, I'm trying to remember the movie, Casino Royale.
Oh really?
Yeah. So the stunt director, I totally forget his name, said, "Okay." I pestered him a little bit. He says, "Okay, calm down," but he didn't introduce me to the stunt team. He goes, "There's this dude here, Simon," and he goes, "I'm off." And goes off, and all the stunt, you can see all the stunt guys standing around going, who the fuck's this dude? And he's for real, blah blah blah, and they're kind of a bit jacked off, I think, because they do, like, I think they have to do brown belt in some.
Yeah, they've done a lot of martial arts,
but they hadn't got any Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and they certainly hadn't got enough of the kind and
small joint manipulation stuff.
So they're saying, look, we've got to move this guy into this position here, and then we want to do da to them. And they're doing something. I'm going, that's not going to work. That was going to look shit.
Yeah.
I'd say why? But they didn't want to believe, basically. Instead of going, okay, let me just do what you want to do.
They were hard. They were hard work.
They're totally distrusting.
Really?
We know better. We've done our 3 years of kickboxing or whatever.
Yeah. This
is the way we do it. That's the end of it. And it's like, okay, that was a wasted day.
Oh really?
Down at Pinewood. Yeah.
They never.
No.
Wow. That's yeah.
Which is kind of strange to get me down and then just sit there and watch.
But there's a lot. I think there's kind of an interesting thing happening with movies and choreography in movies. I think it actually tells, movies tell a story of what's popular in martial arts at that time.
Like John Wick, for example, and stuff.
Everyone's doing grappling now. People are doing arm bars.
So I was talking to people.
And
God, I don't know. I guess this was in like the 2000s, and I don't. But grappling and stuff on the ground's not that sexy. I go, well, what about shooting it through a glass floor or something like that? So you shoot from underneath. Yeah, and just ways to kind of make it sexy. That's the job of a director is. Okay, this is what's credible and what might happen. So how do we make it sexy? Let's not pretend. No, let's just go with the tried and tested people on wires spinning around and that nonsense. Which I was a great. That's what I found refreshing about Steven Seagal, to be honest, was he wasn't jumping around on wires and spinning and doing all that kind of weird walking up walls and stuff. Although in the Matrix it's kind of cool. But.
But in the Matrix it's like that for a reason. It's in the Matrix. And I think they do that. I think John Wick's really cool. I'm not so sure about him shooting someone through the head whilst triangling them. I feel like you probably shoot yourself in the foot at the same time.
Or the knee.
It is cool to see. Jiu-jitsu in films like that.
But what's good about him, though, is that Keanu Reeves, as you probably know,
he
freaking did 6 months or something training, which
that's
epic.
He did all of his.
For someone to actually just go, right, I want to really freaking understand that, and also what a great opportunity to do good training.
Yeah, he was. I think he's with them.
Machado. Yeah.
They seem to do all of the celebrities, don't they?
Yeah, well, they got Chuck Norris, didn't they? I think originally. So that maybe that's a way into the film industry. I don't know.
Yeah, I think they seem to have.
Although Hieron and Henna seem to have a bit, don't they? They have a few, but they're kind of like comedians and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think those guys are definitely kind of starting the break. But it's really cool to see jiu-jitsu kind of coming through the mainstream a little bit more. There's a lot of celebrities that train. People like Demi Lovato and who are really big into it.
Yeah.
And even in the UK, there's a lot of people, celebrities who are big into it. It's really, really cool to see. Should we move on to some questions? If I think anything up, I'll ask you. We already spoke about this. James Long asked, curious to hear his thoughts on going from one art, which doesn't do any sparring or very little sparring, to something with a lot of sparring in like jiu-jitsu, which we covered already.
Yeah. But also, I think within that, what people tend to do is they think about extremes, but, the thing about ninjutsu that teaches, and this also goes, with what I talked about, the kyojitsu, with the sort of line, the interweaving of true and falsehood.
Yeah.
But mostly, when you're looking at stuff, it's somewhere in between.
Yeah.
It's not either one or the other. It's something that's in between.
Sure.
And so, for me, the real truth of all of this is you've got to have pressure testing, but you have to have drilling.
Yeah.
It's not either or. You've got to have both.
Sure.
And for me, that seems pretty simple. Because I think... So, I've taught, I think, one MMA guy over the years. And the lesson I learnt there is that you can't just spend your whole time whacking stuff or sparring with people, because you don't really technically improve otherwise.
Yeah.
And of course, you don't get technical improvement by drilling one or two times. If it's a technique, you probably have to drill it a load of times.
Yeah.
And I think people either get caught up in this idea of it's either one thing or the other, rather than, no, you just do both.
Yeah. That makes complete sense, doesn't it? How does the wider ninjutsu community view Simon embracing BJJ?
Well, we touched on that.
We did.
As initially, I was seen as a bit of a charlatan, I think, and it's like you've
sold out.
It's definitely a bit. Yeah, exactly. But now I think people are realizing, the strength of the art. And
it's undeniable.
Yes,
it is truly undeniable.
Yeah, and and even people that come and train that are within the art. Besides, what I tend to attract is quite a lot of people that are passing through London, like people that already train in Bujinkan. They come in and train with me, and they just go, "Wow!" And I go, "Look, there's no arguing about it." So with a lot of traditional martial arts, you go, would that work? Would that really work? Would I just step out of that? Would that, is that functional? Is it not functional? As we know, in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, it absolutely, there's no doubt.
Yeah.
You've got my neck, I'm going to tap here, or I'm going to go to sleep. There's no question. Yeah. Or you've got me in an arm bar, and I'm going to tap from there, obviously going to break it.
Sure. Is there anyone else in the Bujinkan community embracing kind of learning Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and studying it, or is it still just you as the main person?
There's a few people now that are starting to come through. Certainly I think the highest level person that's doing it. But I think more and more people are seeing it, and I think maybe whether I paved the way. I guess probably I did pave the way, because people, some smart people go, why wouldn't you do that?
Yeah.
Smart people would do that. They go, okay, this has been proved as being utterly effective.
Yeah.
As Royce Gracie showed in '93, it's like, why are we not embracing it? It's like 2018. It's strange.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing that Seymour asked is, use the term Gracie Jiu-Jitsu often. Do you view Gracie Jiu-Jitsu and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as different things?
I think because I have a slant more towards the self-defense, that's why I tend to use Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. I think.
So did you learn the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu system?
Well, I started off with Royce and Hieron and Henna and Horion. That's where I began, and Mark Walder.
Yeah.
So that was my beginning. So I've tended to, not that I've not. So I've also studied with people like Legato, who's a great, he taught me for a long time through brown belt. Wow. And now I train with people like Leo Nagao, who's really old school, which is, I think, is great. And also I train with Vinicius da Costa, who's like totally sports dude. So my own idea of what I want is really more the self-defense side of it more, but I am interested in the sports side as well.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
I know we've got one there. You mentioned him. Simon Hayes wants to hear a Leonid Gao training story.
He's a beast. That man is a beast. Yeah. Not only is he technically very able, but he is as strong as an ox.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know what to do with that guy. I really don't know what to do with that guy.
I want to get him on the podcast.
Yeah, you should do, because but what's interesting for me is that he's one of the few people now that's teaching old school Carlson Gracie stuff.
Yeah,
you know, I go and do like a valet Judo class with him where everything goes up, kicks, the whole lot.
Really?
Yeah.
He does full proper valet Judo.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah. Well, I've asked him to do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, I don't think that. You know, so. Maybe up until it's funny because you kind of for valet Judo you have to learn everything, but then you go, okay, but now we've got to pare it all back because that won't work and that won't work, and then we've got to get down to this and this and work on this. And so for me, it's been very interesting to kind of almost regress a little bit, but then pick apart what we should be doing.
Sure,
yeah,
that's cool.
No, he's a cool guy. I want
to get him on. And then you mentioned it earlier, Brian McCarthy.
Oh right, Brian McCarthy. So the chap that asked that, you know, the thing about Brian McCarthy is that he's actually the guy that I started with right in the beginning in '97, and I think I did about a year or so. But I was also then training with other people, and what became apparent is that his students who were teaching me didn't really know the full thing. It was all, you know, they had little bits and pieces where the other people I was training with seemed to have a much broader view on it. So I used to come back to these classes and it was clear that I'd been training somewhere else. But anyway, eventually I got the ultimatum, either you're with us or you're not.
Really?
Yeah, and it's like, well, as soon as someone says that, I know what that means.
Generally, the general rule is whoever gives you the ultimatum is the one that you don't go with.
Yeah, exactly. And I was already in a quandary about which way do I go? And that absolutely cemented it. Anyway, he then went on to write this long letter, which someone showed me actually while I was in Japan, about how he open letter. Yeah, open letter to Grandmaster. I don't know if actually it was open. I'm not sure if it was.
But it was
open.
to Grandmaster.
Yeah, but he sent it to Grandmaster saying he didn't approve of this and that he felt that this and this. And then anyway, he long and short of it, he thought he knew better than the Grandmaster and went off and set up his own thing. Yeah, which I think again is a bad sign for individuals when they start to really believe that their relationship with whether you think you've still got loads to learn is one thing, but whether you think as a person that you don't want to really, that's kind of weird. I'm still really good friends with this one of my first instructors, Peter King. We hang out together and enjoy our company. I don't train with him that much, but I still enjoy what he does, and I enjoy him as a person. But it's strange how people suddenly feel they've outgrown the person that's originally taught them and stuff like that. I find that very odd, or even pretend that they didn't even exist. Which is even weirder when clearly their lineage can be seen, that they passed through that phase. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, it's very odd.
I want to go back to because you keep on mentioning it and it's got me curious. Back to some ninjutsu history stuff. You refer to the Grandmaster lots of times.
Yes.
What's sort of the process of becoming? Is there just one Grandmaster?
Yeah.
And is that a position that's passed on? And
yes. So it's not necessarily the technically best person, from what I gather. It's the person that the previous Grandmaster thinks can carry the arts furthest. So that often, as you know, the best competitors aren't the best teachers often, and vice versa. So I think, under his own admission, I think he said that he wasn't the most technically proficient person at the time. And also, I think in the time when he was teaching me in the 2000s, and so he'd already been Grandmaster for a long time, he announced one time, he said, I'm only beginning to feel that I'm filling the boots as a Grandmaster now.
Wow. Kind of what you were saying.
Yes, of ranking being given to you ahead of time. So, I don't know what he's going to do in the future, because that's probably your next question. Because I don't know if he's got an heir.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know.
Is that generally how the tradition goes, though? Is that
you should do?
Is it?
Yeah, it should do. And so what's interesting is, so on the face of it, you'd think, well, no one's good enough, so then it's not going to get passed on. But I think 50% of that is for you to find someone that's good enough. As a grandmaster, 50% of the onus is on you, not just for someone going da-ding and presenting themselves. You have to create the environment and the situation. So there's a pressure on you to not to just burn it all up and go, it's finished.
Yeah, surely that has to be the primary responsibility above all else. If your duty is to preserve the art, is to make sure that you're passing it on to someone who can preserve it as well.
Yeah.
So I don't it's not like that there's a master under the ground.
No. You know, one time I thought what he'd do is, because all these schools are funneled into him, and what he'd do is he'd funnel them out. He'd go, right, you've got this school, you've got that school, you've got that school, and then it all funnels out again.
But so it was passed on to him by another grandmaster.
Yeah. So what happened is,
that would be completely changing the system.
Yes, but I think I'm trying to remember. So I think So the previous grandmaster inherited one school from one person, and a couple of schools from someone else, and so slowly it's funneled down into this one person.
Okay, so there were grandmasters of all.
Yeah, so originally each school would have had 9. So each school would have had its own historically, each school would have had its own grandmaster. But then one guy came along that was really good at 2 of them. So they go, okay, you can have that grandmaster would agree and go, you can have that grandmastership, and another grandmaster would go, you can have it as well.
Wow.
And then, but slowly it's gone down into.
So eventually, one grandmaster became ruler of the 9 schools.
But there's nothing to stop him to go. For him to go. Okay, you can now have one. You can
pass
have
it back
one,
out,
and then go and it goes back out again. So I don't know. I've got a feeling he's going to torch the whole lot up.
Really?
I got a feeling. Yeah.
What makes you think that?
Well, he's just awarded like these. I got one like. I wasn't even there, but someone delivered this certificate, which made me like one of the important instructors in the system and stuff. But I've got a feeling that it's his way of trying to make people work together more. But when he goes, that's it.
Really?
I'm talking, this is my own personal opinion. It's not anything that I know. But I just got a feeling it's all going to get burnt up and that's the end of it, I think.
Bit of anarchy.
Yeah.
So is it a position that ends with death? Is it sort of a Pope thing? The Grand Master?
No.
Or
so
he could retire. He could be.
Yeah, he could be going. Okay, you need to listen to this dude now, and I'll just be like a supervisor on the whole thing. He could do that. But I can't see unless he's doing like a load of secret lessons or something with someone that we don't even like. The people that train don't even know about. He's got some dude that comes to him during the day or something like that, and they're training away all day long every day. And he's got some guy that will suddenly go, and this is this guy. I don't know.
How old is he?
He's 80. I think 84. Okay, 85, something like that. Yeah. No, I'm keen to get out because I'm guessing the days, all the years are numbered now.
Sure. Yeah. Very cool. It's so interesting when where there's something so similar in the martial arts, also so different in the way that they do stuff.
Yes,
That's why I enjoy so much listening to people who are masters in other martial arts, such as yourself, and just to see the differences. How many dans are left to go? You're 15 dan. You said you're full up.
So technically, it's 10th dan plus 5. Like there's earth, water, fire, air, and void.
Okay.
So your elemental.
Let me stop you right there.
Yeah.
That sounds like there's some cool gradings going on.
So that's above the 10th dan.
So when you have an elemental grading, do you have to do some cool shit?
Again, he does. Yeah, I can make stuff up if you want. So again, he does that thing where he kind of watches you, and then suddenly he'll go, "Dunno, I think you should have this."
Yeah.
10th dan, you have to get the.
So there's no real significance to the element.
Not well. There is in some of the before that, in some of the kata and stuff like that, where there's elemental feelings and stuff like that. So the trouble is Stephen Hayes, because that's I think one of the other questions about Stephen Hayes.
Yeah.
So one of the things about that is it's been difficult to decipher when he was putting it out there to the Westerners, this new ninjutsu stuff.
Translation or?
No, he was one of the very early students.
Yeah.
He made a fair amount of money out of the whole thing because he was in the ninja boom. He was the authority on ninjutsu. It's a lot of his stuff has been proven to have been his own kind of, let's make it kind of this kind of like
mystical, magical.
Yeah. And so there's and you know, there's still debate whether some of the kata called those the five after the five elements, but there's also debate whether that's actually just a numbering system.
Really?
Yeah. It's a different way of numbering things.
Because like what I was hoping for, I have a friend of mine, an old school friend of mine. I might get him on here one time because he's got an interesting story. But he's like studying he's becoming a shaman.
Yes, yeah.
Okay? Now, whether you believe in that stuff or not,
there's some weird stuff.
There might be, but I don't
on.
buy into it particularly. You know, you know, it was hard enough for people to listen about grounding mats and stuff like that. I'm not going to start.
Can he swim in the ocean full of sharks and make him feel like a shark?
Who knows? But he's and you know, you can think what you want about all of the shamanic stuff and all that stuff. The tests that he did to get graded were legit.
Yeah, okay. Well,
they were fucking legit.
What do they do?
Like for the elements and stuff like that. For the earth one, they would be buried alive.
For how long?
I believe it was 12 hours.
Freaking hell.
Yeah.
Did they have any fatalities?
I don't think so. You know, he said, and they did. You know, they did all the five elements.
I remember someone told me because they'd done some shamanic stuff in Hawaii actually.
Yeah.
And they said, and I joked about swimming in the ocean with the
they
the
do
sharks.
Crazy shit.
And you have to swim, but you have to put out the impulses so that the other sharks
think you're
a shark. Yeah,
that's mad, isn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, he did. He got. I know that. He got buried alive because that was a lot like that's fucked up. And they go out, they do they get into a trance and they dig a grave, they lay in it, and then they put a carpet over him, and then they
fill
him in, and then they just pull him out. Maybe it was 8 hours or 10 hours, but it was a long fucking time later. And they said most important thing is don't fall asleep, because if you fall asleep, you wake up and you will panic because you're buried alive. But I know one he had to stay in for the fire one. He had to stay in a like a sauna, very very hot sauna for a long time. And that was rough.
Have you ever done fire walking and stuff like that?
I've not. No,
so I've not done that either.
Yeah,
but that's kind of weird because I trod on a barbecue ember recently. That freaking hurt. I can tell you, it really hurt.
If it's worse than standing on a plug socket, which I legitimately did like a week ago, that was the worst. Yeah, but I was just hoping there was going to be some cool shit you're going to learn how to eat fire or something.
Sadly not.
Okay.
I can tell you about the invisibility and the poison stuff if you want.
Yeah,
no, I'm only joking.
Oh man.
So the invisibility thing. So if you imagine that someone's wearing a crash helmet.
Yeah.
So they're like this. So, you know, it's like samurai armor. It's like this. It's got the headpiece like Darth Vader, and then it's got a mask that comes here.
So there's blind spots.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
it's
that's
just standing,
moving, dropping down, just shifting to spots where they can't see immediately.
Which, of course, it doesn't really work now unless the person's... I guess if they're wearing like a bicycle helmet
or motorcycle helmet.
Motorcycle helmet, that's what I mean, yeah. And the poison?
Poisons. Well, there is a load of stuff about poisons. I haven't.
Is that in the book that you?
Yeah, it probably is actually. It probably is. Yeah, it probably is. Yeah. What you need to do is you need to get a translation for it.
Yeah,
because it's all in like ancient
Okay.
Japanese. Yeah. But I think someone has recently translated it.
Okay.
There's a whole load of like herbal poisons and stuff like that, natural poisons and stuff like that.
Yeah. That's and it is like.
But you see in most cultures, you know, if you look at the Amazonians and stuff, there's and even
it's just about like you said at the beginning, being connected to the earth and understand it and stuff like that. How did you meet Hatsumi Soke?
Yeah, so I met him. The first time I met him was in Texas, I think. This is the first. I'm trying to think if he'd been over to. No, he'd probably been over to the UK by then.
Just for people who don't know, including myself, who is he?
Hatsumi Soke is the Grandmaster, who I refer to.
He is
as
the Grandmaster. Okay.
Yeah. So no, he'd been at that. I lie. He'd been over to the UK. I think he'd done a big teaching to the police actually in Hendon. But what he was very interesting. He's fascinated because I was quite well. I had quite a good, well-paying job, and I had a Ferrari at the time.
Oh, really?
And so I used to turn up and park my Ferrari outside the training, and he used to come out and he used to go, "Oh, someone that's doing a good job, he's like a good, industrious person, is studying my art." So I think in a way he was quite flattered by that.
Okay.
That someone that's got what could be perceived as being successful was embracing his art, because I think up until then it wasn't like that. But now there's lots of people that are doing very credible jobs and are very successful doing that. But at the time, I think so even now he he's become a bit like a rock star, so you can't really get close to him these days. But whenever I'm there, or certainly the last few times, I was training with a friend called Anthony Netzler from New Zealand, who was in Japan at the time. Some guy comes around in the training hall and goes, "Simon, he wants to speak to Simon. He wants to speak to Simon." I go, "Fuck it, I wonder, yeah, that's not me." And so I carry on talking to his friend Anthony, and then Anthony goes, "Man, he wants to talk to you." And I go, "Really?" So I go in there, and he goes, "What car are you driving?" And I thought we were going to have like some deep, meaningful exchange. And then he went into like the other stuff, how's your training going? But the first question I think he asked me was, "What car are you driving?"
I love it.
He's a cool guy, actually. He's a really cool guy. He's not this austere kind of guy that you
He's
think.
down to earth.
Yeah, he's like, and God, I remember flying into Tokyo with Peter King, and he goes, "Right, we want to go and get some food. Let's go and get some food." And I'm going, "Oh, we just flown in. It's like, we just want to go to bed." And he goes, No. And he goes on and on. It's like, okay. And what he wanted to do is drink sake.
Yeah.
So we're sitting there, and I get freaking drunk not drunk. I just get, I get really tired when I'm drinking.
Sure.
And certainly with the jet lag. And I passed this, fell asleep. And then he sort of, it doesn't sound great, actually, the story. Anyway, Peter wakes me up. And he goes, "He's giving you your fourth Dan or something." He's a cool guy. And the way he sees stuff is remarkable. Now, some people ask me, because some people have completely migrated and doing Muay Thai, MMA, and some are doing Jujitsu, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. They go, "Why do you still train there?" And I go, "Man, the way he sees stuff, I've never met a martial artist that can see stuff." So when you learn technique and stuff, I see that as a science.
Yes.
So you have to do this precision thing, and this happens, and this happens, this happens. When it's a martial art, then you have to put your own flavour to it. So you combine the way you combine it. And up until then, I've never seen someone combine stuff, or even now, he combines movement and stuff in such a freaking genius way.
Wow.
And love him or hate him, or believe that some people think he's a fraud, some people think this, that, and the other. He is a freaking, whatever he is, he's a freaking cool martial artist.
Yeah.
Yeah. An inspiring martial artist. Like I referred to about that it only takes one seed to turn your head to grow the tree.
Yeah.
That's what he does for me.
Awesome.
And it might not be perfectly, and I think, okay, in my opinion, we should try it like this or that for where I am. I go, but he sows that seed, like gives me he gives me a freaking forest of seeds to go away with, to go, okay, I don't really understand that, I don't understand this, I need to work on that, what does that mean, how do I do this, how do I do that, and it just gives me, like, as I say, a forest of stuff to do.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Nice. History of the Bujinkan system, which I think we've covered.
Yeah. I don't like history either.
I think you get some really good stuff. So.
Yeah.
He wants to hear more about who we just spoke about, the Grandmaster.
Yeah.
Literally just covered this. Literally just covered that. Okay, so do you think they hurt the art? Does Simon think they hurt the art or helped the art the way Karate Kid got many doing karate? I assume this means movies.
Yeah. So, yes. So, of course, it helped, like the UFC helped Gracie Jiu-Jitsu hugely.
Yeah.
Of course, the ninja boom got lots of people involved in ninjutsu.
But it's also given them the wrong idea about it.
That's exactly what I was going on to say. So, I haven't had this for a long time, but you get some freaking weird people going, "Oh, can you help me? I'm being spiritually stalked by..."
Really?
Yeah. ninja assassins. Can you?
Do you ever just go like, you know what? Give me £100.
Yeah.
Take this gem.
Yeah.
And just rub it on your forehead every morning.
Yeah. So recently I had some guy. So there's in a lot of the old Japanese martial arts, there's a thing called kuji, which is is chanting certain intonations and also finger wrapping your fingers. To give you, in my opinion, and people might, it's supposed to invoke like an empowerment or something like that. What I think is it's a physical manifestation of your resolve.
Sure.
So you go, I want to do this, and you bind it up with a certain tone and a certain thing. And you see it a lot in Buddhist things with those knots, those Tibetan knots things, where they say a prayer and they tie a knot. They say a prayer and it seals, supposed to seal the prayer or whatever it is, or incantation or whatever into it. So it gives you, and you know, there's a lot of, if you look through all the ages, you go, okay, there's a lot of this stuff that's in different kind of areas of the world, that there's a communal idea.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, that's what, anyway, this guy wanted me to teach him all about this. I said to him, I said, the people I know that have fooled around with this have invoked stuff in them that's really messed them up, and it's become really quite, they get
really
it's a difficult one, but whereas my common sense tells me witchcraft and the shamanism and all that kind of stuff, it's a load of old crap. There's weird things that you see from time to time and go, fuck, that's freaking weird. Yeah. How the hell does that happen? And there used to be there was a space of it a while back where people were trying to get into this stuff, and people were getting really like tormented by poltergeists and stuff like that, and weird stuff that I really don't really understand. And so my ethic has been always, let's not freaking get too involved in that, because, you know, I don't want to invoke stuff that's like problematic.
Yeah.
But also I have a great belief that one of the reasons you do all your training is it not only makes your body robust enough, but it makes your head robust enough to deal with it. And so, but everyone like the pressure points and all that stuff. Oh, how can I get a shortcut? How can I get these spiritual powers to help me do something
without having to go through the training?
Exactly. And so I see it very much like that. So I kind of stay away. Anyway, this guy was going, but you know, so and so's told me that you can do, you know, you can help me learn all this. It's like, I don't really do that stuff. You know, all I want to do is good training, using leverage, good balance. And
you like to stick to the more physical stuff,
and just to do everything properly. I'm interested in the other stuff, but I was far more interested in it when I was younger, to be honest. And now,
the mystical stuff,
yeah. And there is something weird going on, but the trouble is you can end up just chasing your tail on that stuff and neglecting your stuff which is really good.
Yeah, yeah, no, 100%. Yeah. Someone asked how legit is Batman's ninjutsu, but I don't think he does ninjutsu.
No, it's Casey. He does the Casey system.
Okay, so off of that,
yeah,
what's the best martial arts or the best ninjutsu? What's the best that you've ever watched a film and gone, that's legit?
Well, I like Ninja Assassin, although that's another thing. So I've written a book on ninjutsu.
Yes,
but at the time, a friend of mine, I think, was production manager or coordinator, and for Ninja Assassin, that guy with that I think it was the Thai rock star or something.
Yeah,
and they had Shogi as the evil master.
Yeah.
I say, man, you need to make it legit, you know, instead of making it like just the stuff. You know, they did a pretty good job, but they could have made it just for the nerdy people. Like,
that's the thing. You're pleasing such.
Yeah.
When like,
no, I understand
when jiu-jitsu people watch a film,
well, it broke my heart that Batman wasn't doing legit. But
yeah, exactly.
with Liam Neeson on the ice and
exactly.
stuff.
You know, when a jiu-jitsu person watches a movie and there's like a shit armbar, oh my god! But it's it's a fraction of the percentage
2% of the whole population.
They can even tell. Yeah.
So. I don't know which was the best. That was pretty good, the Ninja Assassin. But some of the old Shogi ones. What was it? I think one just called The Ninja was a good one.
Yeah.
There's a great book called by Lusbarder called The Ninja, which really gets into all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
And he's written a trilogy of Nicholas Linnea, I think, is the character. I'm amazed they haven't made it into a film.
Yeah.
It's good stuff. American Ninja, I think, where the guy puts the bucket on his head and the other guy's got the broom or something, and he turns his back and he tries to hit. That was quite cool for me.
But yeah, there's a lot in it, you know. It's a big thing. Here's a good one. Someone asked Bruce Lee or Chuck Norris, to which you gave a very interesting answer, which is...
Well, so let me try and get this right. My
Well, what was the answer?
Yeah, so of course Bruce Lee. I support my family.
What? Yeah. The answer is that you're distantly related to Bruce Lee.
So my grandmother's father's brother's grandson was Bruce Lee.
Really?
Yeah.
Say that again slowly.
So my grandmother's father's brother's...
So your great-grandmother's...
No, my grandmother's... Yeah. So my great-grandfather's brother grandson was Bruce Lee.
So that would be your great-great-grandfather's great-great-grandson.
No, my great-grandfather.
Yeah. So you're probably
brother.
like...
So my great-uncle, my great-uncle's grandson.
Cousins?
Something like that.
That's
but my
not
grandmother
distant.
used to look after him when he was a kid.
No way.
In Hong Kong, because my family came from Hong Kong.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And then you can Wikipedia, and it's legit.
Yeah. Okay, here's an interesting question. The Japanese government, and we've kind of covered it, but it will be interesting to get your take on this. The Japanese government actively maintain that ninjas didn't exist, that there's little historical evidence to support the clans as they're presented in modern media. This is how it is presented in schools in Japan. Given this information, does Simon ever worry that the basis of the art comes from exaggeration and legend, implying the physical side of it may have well been considered in modern day terms bullshit martial arts? And he continues to say, I think it's pretty obvious why a country with strong ancestor-associated traditions...
So, on a much more simple answer to that is that when I was younger, that sort of thing would bother me. But as I got more discerning, and I've said this before, what this Japanese Grandmaster does is so freaking cool.
Yeah.
And, you know, he seems to have, you know, like he'd be spinning like a stick with a sword on the end of it around, and every time, and the blade would come straight at you.
Really?
And it'd be like this, and it would always come. He's got such skills that, and as I said, he gives me enough seeds to sow a forest.
It's almost it's so cool it doesn't matter.
Yes, that's true. That's exactly true. So a lot of people say, well, yeah, but a load of old bullshit, and it's all he's made it up. I go, yeah, but what he's made up, if he has made it up, it's fucking cool.
I love it. It's a great
because he is a unique guy. You know, he's given me so much help with like the way I look at life, all these kind of things. It's like, and okay, some of it is historic, and he's always said, this is a battlefield martial art. You need to adapt it to where you live and what you want to do with it.
I love that.
Yeah, and it's like, and everyone's going, oh yeah, but he showed it. It needs to be shown like this. It's like, that's not what he ever said.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so many people they see something and they create their own narrative about how it should be continued.
And another
forward.
interesting thing he said, so we were talking about grades and stuff like that. So he runs it incredibly loosely, and everyone's going, you know, so in most Japanese things, you've got like a really rigid structure of, you know, you have to do this, you get that, and you can't possibly do this without doing that.
Yeah.
He's much more fluid, so he kind of looks at you globally and what you can do. So you have, like everything, you have, that guy can do really freaking good throws, that guy's shit at throws, but he's really good at choking people.
Yeah.
Are they the same grade? Well, that guy's really good at that. That guy's, maybe they are, but they have totally different skill sets.
It's the same in Jiu-Jitsu, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because
so you could be a super good guard player, and shit like I was, and shit at playing the top game.
Yeah.
But yeah, they are kind of worth the same grade. So his answer has always been to, if you make a rigid structure for everything, nature will find a way of breaking it. So you want to keep everything kind of loose. Don't have it be fixed in what you know, everything should be fluid.
Yeah.
And not be too caught up in, it needs to be like this. And this is what I think upsets a lot of people in life, is they create these pictures of what they think the situation should be or end up like, or how things should happen. And when it doesn't, that picture actually arrives, it goes, there's a big area of black here and this is green over there, and I thought it was going to be that, and they go, and they get all upset and cry, rather than going, okay, I made that picture as best I could, but now let's move on and try and make it a bit better.
Yeah.
Rather than just going, right, that's it, it's fucked. My life's fucked. This didn't happen the way I wanted it to. And just going, okay, it's a work in progress. Let's continue working on it and not be too upset, because mostly the idea of the first picture that they have in their head is driven by stuff that is what they want, but nothing to do with the facts of what is possible.
Yeah.
So, as soon as you start to think, okay, life is fluid and you don't have to necessarily get this and this for it to be perfect, that you go, okay, actually, and I think all of us have been in that situation where you start off as a young teenager going, well, when I'm older I'm going to be doing this, and by the time I'm 25 I'll have 2 kids and whatever. Yep. And it doesn't work out like that. Some people or a lot of people get kind of broken by the fact that things don't work out the way they planned.
They thought,
and this idea of being more fluid and not I'm being bending. We hear about the bamboo bending in the wind and the fir tree breaking and the bamboo just flexes. Just be flexible. Don't be too stuck on stuff.
So we mentioned it earlier that a lot of the ninjutsu stuff, and obviously this Grandmaster who's a very wise man.
Yes.
There's a lot of philosophy and stuff involved in it. What you've just mentioned here about being flexible and not kind of being broken by fate not going the way that you hoped it to.
Yeah.
Would you, I kind of, as we draw towards the end of this, what would be the main lesson? Obviously there's going to be so many, but that ninjutsu
so
or
that
the
has just come to me like
represents.
in a flash of inspiration as you were talking. I kind of guessed where it was going.
Yeah, go on.
So Steve Jobs talked about this thing, I think just before he died, about doing things from your heart and not being driven by, if I did that I'll earn loads of money or whatever, or I get loads of fame. Whatever it could be is you're perhaps in a way you're poison. So, but do things that you really want to do. So you start to do this, you do that, and you start to create dots on a map, for example, and you go, fuck, what does that mean? But as you get older, you suddenly realise that you've set yourself up to be really skilled in quite a few things that enables you to do something really significant.
Yeah.
And so it's very easy to doubt, okay, why am I doing this? It makes no sense, but I want to do it. And often you go, fuck it, I better not do that because I want to do something that maybe pays me more money. And then that's when you see people that are doing stuff in their later life and they go, I fucking hate going to work. I earn a shitload of money. I've got golden handcuffs I can't get out of.
Yeah.
But it's weird how... So what I've seen in my life is that I've done stuff and I have tried to follow my heart. I've been a bit kind of swept off course by working, doing certain things for money and working and blah-de-blah. But you go, why do I do that? And again, it goes back to the flow thing that I talked about, getting into the flow zone. It's when you let your instincts... So I think there's a big part where you have to train your instincts to be correct. So you've got to educate your instincts with logic. So it's a bit like doing Jujitsu. When you first start, it's counterintuitive, but your job is to make it intuitive by drilling and practicing. So once you've educated your instincts to be mostly correct, I think you can get close to being pretty correct a lot once you've gone through that time. Then you have to give it your instincts the freedom to be used. And I think the biggest problems come to a lot of us is when we go, I want to do this, but I'm not going to, because you can't then start to triple, quadruple guess it and go, well, yeah, but if I do this, and then suddenly you lose the moment.
Yeah.
And so what I've tried to do, and I'd even try to do more and more now, is just follow my heart. And weirdly, so in 2008, when the financial crash came, I was doing a lot of work in my proper job for the financial institutions, and it literally fell off a cliff. And I've sort of been there before. When I first set up my company, I think in 88 or something like that, they were going through, and we made money then, and made a lot of money then. But this time I thought, okay, 2 months later, we'll be okay. Doesn't happen. And in the end, weirdly, my children started to go to school. I write a piece in the magazine about my martial arts and stuff, and then parents go, Simon, can you teach children? I've never taught children, but from an early age I'd always had quite a good affinity with children.
Sure.
I could always get them to do what I want and play around, and
that ninja mind control.
Yeah, exactly. And they used to enjoy my company. So then I started to teach children, which I never ever saw, but I saw that as a culmination of why have I started, and it bailed me out financially, completely bailed me out at that time, while my other business recovered. But it's like, okay, I always thought teaching martial arts was like a weird obsession I had for myself. I never saw it as anything that would make money, and it was just, and then suddenly it's like, well, I'm glad I did that, and then also I'm glad that I was able to be able to relate to children. Suddenly the two things come together, and then a bit of business acumen, and that locks it in, and then suddenly away we go.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I think that's the most important thing is do your diligence about educating your thoughts and things to be correct, and then let them free.
Yeah.
Because now, every time I second guess what I think, is normally ends up in a disaster. Not a disaster, but it ends up as not being as good as the way I thought originally. My instincts told me.
Sure. That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
And that's what a way to end it. We've done 2 hours 45 minutes.
Wowza!
It goes very quickly.
Yeah,
doesn't
yeah,
it?
yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
That was wicked, man. Just before we get off, where can people, if people want to find out more about you, or if they want to come and train with you?
Yes. So my website is www.dojo.net, and my email is siyo@aol.com.
Okay, I'll put all the links in the description and put them at the end of this anyway.
Cool, man.
And so where's your academy?
It's in Fulham.
It's
just
in
by
Fulham,
Broadway.
And if people are interested about doing some of the ninjutsu stuff, and you do grappling, you do Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and do sparring in there, then go drop in some time.
Try. You know, it's all up for grabs.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that, man.
Good.
Thank you very much, Simon.
Thank you for having me.
Hopefully I'll catch you again soon. Cheers. Cool, guys. I hope you enjoyed that episode. If you want to get in touch with Simon, then you can go to his website, which is yodojo.net. That's YEODOJO.net. You can also email him at sio@aol.com. That's SIYEO@aol.com. If you want to get in touch with the podcast, you can email me at podcast@raspberryape.com. You can hit me up on the regular social medias on Instagram or on Twitter. My handle is raspberry_ape. You can also hit me up on the Facebook thingy. Also check out my website, which is raspberryape.com, or my YouTube page that should have the video up as well. I should have put that at the beginning, but I didn't. If you listen to this entire episode and then you decide that you want to watch the video, now is your chance to go and do that. So it should be up there, as well as other videos at raspberryape.com. No, that's not the one. At youtube.com/raspberryape. Guys, thank you for listening, and I will catch you next time. Take it easy.